saw a picture of your grandbaby.
Oh, you did? What a wonderful, wonderful. Good dog.
All right, here we go.
I know.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the school board meeting of December the 11th, or December the 9th. 9th. I'm sorry, I have the wrong day. Got a lot of things on my mind. Thank you all for coming. I truly, sincerely mean that. I'm glad that there's a large crowd here this evening, and I welcome each and every one of you, and we'll have many opportunities for you to speak this evening. We had a short closed session prior to this meeting, so at this particular time, I need a motion to return to open meeting and certify the closed meeting.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move that we return to open meeting and certify that Gloucester County School Board, while in closed session, discussed only public matters lawfully exempted from opening meeting requirements provided in subsection A of section 2.2-3711, and that only public business matters that were identified in the motion convening the closed session were heard, discussed, or considered.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. A second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Kamash, can you pull the board, please?
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Hensley?
Yes.
Mrs. Hook?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Records?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Burek?
Yes. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is the moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Campbell-Farina.
If you please join me for the moment of silence. Thank you. And now, if you'll please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Farina. I appreciate it very much. Next item on the agenda is personnel items. Do I have a motion to approve the monthly personnel appointments and resignations? Motion. A motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next item is additions, changes, and adoption of the agenda. Dr. Clemens.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Under item C, approval of policy manual update, I'd ask that we move JHCH, school meals and snacks, to the report of the Assistant Superintendent, Mr. Hutchinson, since it is a new policy. And then also under school board member items, I make a recommendation that we move the school board members' items to after the citizens' comment period.
Okay, you heard the recommendation. Is there any other modifications or changes or additions to the agenda? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor to approve the agenda as indicated, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next item is the approval of the items contained in the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Kamash, will you poll the board?
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Hensley?
Yes.
Mrs. Hook?
Yes.
Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Records?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Burek?
Yes. The next item is staff presentations and recognitions. The first item is presentations of diplomas to the Gloucester High School winter graduates, Ms. Tony Childress, Mr. Collins, and myself.
Ladies and gentlemen, could we please stand to acknowledge our graduates as they walk in? Can we hear? I don't think so. Can you hear? Thank you. You may be seated. Good evening and welcome. I'm so very excited that this is our second graduating class here at T.C. Walker Education Center and to be here to introduce another virtual graduating class. Each year, I take such great pride and am so appreciative that I'm allowed to introduce such a fantastic group of seniors to the school board. For new staff members, these are seniors who finish through our virtual program before the June graduation. These students could have waited to complete courses until later in the year, but chose to work hard and get it done in order to move on with their adult careers. In fact, many of these seniors are already holding down full-time jobs. This to me is pretty remarkable and says much about their character. I have learned quite a bit about this particular group. These are students who are very strong-willed and have great ambitious personal goals. Their determination, willpower, and fortitude have really come in handy these past few months, as these students have not given up on getting a high school diploma in order to get to their next chapter of their lives. It is without question, however, our students have encountered obstacles that have interfered with their journey to earning a high school diploma, and sometimes that high school diploma looked far away and almost unobtainable. Yet here we are tonight, having earned that diploma. That's personal commitment and sheer determination. Members of the board, these young men and women are students who have not only academic ability, but also have great career goals beyond a high school diploma. Out of the 10 graduates, 100% of those graduates have plans to attend trade school, college, or to join the military. Rebecca, Ashley, Cassidy, Alex, Sebastian, and James plan to attend college to study childcare, counseling, psychology, anesthesiology, business, and general studies. Justin is looking forward to applying to the apprentice school. John, Keith, and TJ are planning to serve our country proudly in the United States military. All this has been possible because of their incredible dedication and hard work towards finishing a goal, towards finishing a high school diploma. I am proud to recognize that these graduates are our Gloucester community members who have a clear purpose and it will contribute to our county and our country as responsible adults and citizens. It goes without saying that there are many people that have helped our students. At this time, would my parents and grandparents and family members please stand? Your children have been embedded for years that education is important, and that comes from you. I speak on behalf of Gloucester County Public Schools, but we could not have done our jobs without your unrelenting support at home, in meetings, and in important events like tonight. You are the biggest support system for your children. This is your night, too. Enjoy and congratulations on this tremendous milestone, and thank you for your perseverance. I'd like to take a moment to thank a few people. We have a wonderful safety net at Gloucester High School with Mr. Collins, the administration, Ms. Wyatt, and the counseling department. Dr. Clemens, Dr. Wagner, and Mr. Hutchinson. The virtual program continues to grow and couldn't have without all the right players and support systems in place, and we truly appreciate that support. To the school board, thank you for always being innovative enough to continue to embrace this and support the virtual learning. Tonight, as you see, it is one of the many advantages. Our students are here because of the virtual opportunities provided by Gloucester High School and Gloucester County Public Schools. Lastly, to our Gloucester High School graduates, this night is to honor your years of hard work, dedication, and ability to stay on course, to never lose sight of what's important. We have no doubt you will excel along in your adult careers, and congratulations. At this time, members of the class of 2014, would you please stand? Church you.
Thank you, Dr. Childress. members of the class of 2014, as a designee of Gloucester County Public Schools, it is my privilege to have the honor of certifying in front of the faculty of the Gloucester County School Board and those assembled here today that all of you have met the requirements set forth by the Virginia Department of Education and Gloucester County Public Schools necessary to receive the diplomas issued here today. I'd ask that you please remain standing for the conferral of diplomas by the Gloucester County School Board Chair, Mr. Randy Burak.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Thank you. Congratulations, students, graduates. By the power vested in me by the State Board of Education and the Gloucester County School Board, I hereby confer upon you your high school diploma. You may now move your tassel from the right to the left. Congratulations.
Rebecca Gail Allen. You can go over there. John Ray Gaddis. Ashley Michelle Kearns. Alexandra Judith Rodriguez. Sebastian Lee Sane. I'd like to note that Sebastian earned an advanced diploma. Justin Ray Schultz. Trevor Jamil Wilson.
Again, congratulations to all of our graduates. I would encourage you to remember that tonight is not the finish line. It is clearly the starting line. Have a great race. At this time, it is my pleasure to present formally the 2014 graduating class of Gloucester High School. Congratulations.
Congratulations to each one of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Childers. Give them a few minutes. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the recognition of Mr. Rusty West, Project Lead, The Way Teacher. Dr. Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board and our guests that are with us this evening. here in the auditorium, as well as those that might be watching at home. In the spirit of recognition, we would like to pay tribute to one of our fine teachers, and his principal is here, Ms. Ginny Wilburn from Page Middle School, who'd like to share something about Mr. West with you. But recognition is always sweetest when it's in front of those who can appreciate it the most. So it's great that we have a turnout tonight, not only to recognize our student celebration earlier, but also some wonderful teaching as well. So, Ms. Wilburn.
Good evening. It is a great pleasure that I brag on one of Page's finest teachers, Mr. Russell West. He teaches robotics for both Page and Gloucester High School. We're so very lucky to have him. He brings an enthusiasm to the classroom. He truly, truly enjoys what he does every single day, and it shows. He has, and something that he's most proud of, for 4 consecutive years, he's attended the VEX World Championships in robotics. He has recently been a finalist for Virginia Teacher of the Year in 2010, and Virginia named him the Middle School Technology Educator of the Year in 2011. Most recently, and very impressive, in Indianapolis on November 5th, Project Lead the Way named Mr. Rusty West Teacher of the Year at their summit. So we're very proud of him, and we celebrate his accomplishments with him.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to say that winning an award like this is really a team effort. It starts with my fellow teachers who support me, the office staff at Page, the administration at Page, and it goes all the way up to the school board and the central office staff here in Gloucester. I couldn't do it alone. It's really a team effort, and this award is examples of that. Thank you very much.
Mr. West, just on behalf of the Gloucester County School Board, thank you for all you do and for representing Gloucester so well nationwide. So thank you. The next item on the agenda is updates on boards and commissions from any school board members. Does any board members have anything that they would like to provide? Any information? Okay, seeing none. Move on to the next item. The next item is citizen comment period. The school board members' items was moved to right after that. So at this time we will have citizen comment period. Speakers are asked to state their name, the district in which they reside, and limit their remarks to 2 minutes to be determined. And that is, I determined that based on the quantity of people that would like to speak tonight. We want to make sure that we hear from each and every one of you that would like to speak to us. Mr. Ted Wilmot, who is our county attorney, he will be our timekeeper, and he will alert me after when you have about 15 seconds left in your time period and before you have to finish. So I appreciate everyone here this evening, and I'm happy that each one of you would like to speak. I have the list here, and I'll call your name, and I apologize in advance if I state your name and I don't pronounce it correctly for any reason, but it's certainly not intentional. And we will have opportunity, if there's anybody else that wants to speak that has not signed up yet, please do so on the table, and I'll grab those papers once we get through the first 3 sheets. All right. The first person on the list is Mr. Steve Sykes-Nova, and then Mr. Brian McGovern will be next.
Good evening. I'm Steve Sykes-Nova. I'm a teacher, and I'm officially speaking on behalf of the Gloucester Education Association. I'm a 20-year veteran of elementary school in Gloucester County, and I'm a proud general member of the Gloucester Education Association. I'm here this evening at the invitation of Mr. McGovern, GEA President, as one of 2 speakers, both he and myself, to officially express the GEA's appreciation of its members at large and all the teachers and support personnel who came out this evening, and to speak of issues important to membership of the GEA. Classroom teachers, as supported by their principals, are the day-to-day backbone of education in our schools, and Gloucester County is fortunate to have some of the finest, most dedicated, and most accomplished teachers in the Commonwealth. Some with 20 and some with even over 30 years of successful and innovative classroom experience. We have national board certified teachers, teachers with master's degrees, and some like myself with dual master's degrees. Both our new and our experienced BA level teachers are some of the most talented and most dedicated in the Commonwealth. Our school system has a wealth of resources in its personnel, in its teacher leaders. That is why we, the GEA, call directly upon the school board, though our plates are full, though our hours are long, our talents are many. We call upon the school board to work closely with our new superintendent of schools, Dr. Walter Clements, to ensure that both elementary and secondary teacher leaders' knowledge, experience, and their classroom enthusiasm are truly heard at the county level in ways that acknowledge and demonstrate from day to day that teachers are genuine and influential professional partners in how the Gloucester County Public School System moves forward from here. The Gloucester County teacher leaders want, deserve, and have earned over time their seat at the table as knowledgeable professional partners in educational decision-making. The GEA is confident that should this path be taken, its direct and indirect results will greatly benefit the primary focus of all of our mutual efforts, the children and adolescents in our care every day at school. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. McGovern, and then Mr. Van Ness, and then Donna Freeman.
Mr. Chairman, members of the school board, Dr. Clemens, members of the administration, fellow educators, good evening. Brian McGovern, Abingdon, GHS teacher, GEA president. I'd like to first of all ask those here tonight who are teachers and support staff to please stand momentarily, and we're going to do this quickly because I'm limited on time, of course. Wow. Thank you all for being here. And as I stand at the podium tonight speaking on behalf of these dozens of professionals from every building, my colleague has spoken eloquently, highlighting a vision, one that would serve and enhance the success of all students and create an environment of true and genuine collaboration and trust among all of us who are commissioned to educate the youth of Gloucester County. This is not simply a lofty vision, but rather an idea proven by solid research and data. October 14th article in Education Week focused on the long-standing partnership between the superintendent of California's ABC Unified School District and the local association. Not only has this relationship fostered high morale and collaboration, research indicates a positive impact on student outcomes. Saul Rubenstein research has indicated that students in this school system scored higher on the California Academic Progress Indicator. The current superintendent also credits this partnership as a significant factor in student achievement, remarking that teachers are not the problem, they are the solution. Not only does this research indicate the benefit of genuine and mutual collaboration, but also experience. Those in this room who have worked in this division more than 2 decades might recall a time when each building had a collaborative committee made up of teachers and administrators. In addition, one school board member was assigned for each building. These committees would freely and open discuss issues pertinent to their respective schools, then hammer out and implement solutions. It sounds like this was an example of true collaboration.
If we could wrap it up.
Okay. Our hope is that we will be able to foster an environment in which teachers and staff truly have a voice, one of genuine, mutual, and open dialogue on best practices, adequate planning time, and strategies and support that teachers really need to grow in their profession. This will be true collaboration. I thank the members of the board.
Thank you, Mr. McGovern. Mr. Van Ness. Donna Freeman will be next.
Ladies and gentlemen of the school board, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. My name is Ralph Van Ness. I am here today as a father and as a pastor of a local church here in Gloucester County. I realize that the subject of transgender individuals is a divisive point. There is debate on both sides There are psychologists on both sides that of the issue that talk about whether it is legit act of being born that way or whether it is against nature. There are court cases that are on both sides of the issue that deal with the restroom issue. I'll sent to each one of the school board members and to Dr. Clemens information that I received from the Family Foundation a few weeks back. During the November school board meeting, as I got up to speak to you, I gave you the question, where does it end? And that remains a real question that pierces my thoughts here this evening. Once again, I would ask that question, where does it end? In addition to the examples that I gave in November, I must also ask the question, where does it end? Does it stay in the Gloucester High School realm? Or does it go to the middle schools, and does it even trickle on down to the elementary schools? And as outlandish as it may sound, that is something that is to be considered. I brought up the subject at the last school board meeting about rights. And I believe that as Americans, we are endowed with rights. But I must also reiterate that there are rights of the other students, the other young men in Gloucester County High School. I must reiterate that and bring that to your attention as well.
Thank you, Mr. Furness.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. I'm Donna Freeman. I'm from the Ware District, and I'm a teacher at Gloucester High School. We, the teachers of Gloucester, are often thanked for all we do for the students, and some of us wonder, like I, if anyone really knows what's included in the word all. Do you know that we work what amounts to 2 shifts? The first shift is what we do during contract hours. At the high school, this means teaching 6 classes instead of 5 and having one planning every other day, unlike our colleagues in neighboring counties. At the time we agreed to teach the 6th class to ease overcrowding, we were assured class size would not exceed 15. At the time we gave up second planning, we were told it was a temporary sacrifice. The second shift begins at 2:40 with makeup work, remediation for tutoring, coaching, and sponsoring of clubs. The second shift also includes those teachers who teach night school. Recently, my husband noticed I had given up gardening, my hobby, my source of sunshine and spiritual renewal, and walking. It's how I stay healthy. I explained that we have a new, far more time-consuming way to write lesson plans. It's not just the format I claim, but the content. And I had told him I'm retooling my lessons to include activities at the upper level of Bloom's taxonomy, incorporating high-yield strategies. I was surprised by his response. He told me I was already spending enough of my waking hours helping to ensure student success. He couldn't remember an unencumbered weekend, and he asked if I would consider spending as much time with Mr. Freeman as with Mr. Bloom, Mr. Marzano, and Mr. Hattie. I sighed, and I told him he'd have to wait until winter break or summer, because, first things first, right? There are 24 hours in a day, an immutable fact, and when paperwork takes more time than contact with students, one might ask if we are indeed putting our students first. Lesson planning and the collection, disaggregation, and reporting of data should not supplant teacher-student time, or teacher-child time, or teacher-significant other time. It shouldn't greedily gobble up more than its fair share of the pie. It shouldn't starve out time for community involvement, or sleep. The reality is that every time a new program or state mandate is handed down, no matter how well-meaning, it adds to the burgeoning paperwork. So I urge you to consider the weight of the burden we already bear before implementing new programs or policies. It takes time to connect with students, and it takes time and energy to develop lesson plans that engage and inspire. Time and energy are 2 priceless resources in very short supply. I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Freeman. The next speaker is Pastor Fred Carter. And Mr. Gavin, you'll be next after.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Superintendent, my name is Fred Carter. I'm a pastor of a little church up the road, but I'm also the institute instructor for the 13 churches who meet on the fifth Sunday. They've been meeting every fifth Sunday since 1866. They came out of slavery trying to make a better community by working together. Well, we're still trying to make a better community by working together. And I think first, I can clearly say we want to support Dr. Clemens. He's got a new job, he's got a difficult job, he's got to build a whole new school, and then somebody drops a hot potato like this in his lap. Not his fault, not our fault, but the best thing to do with a hot potato is to put it down. Just let it go. We have no advantage in making some poor kid feel left out or anything. I remember when we went here because somebody said we were significantly different than the other kids in the community, so we couldn't go with them to their bathrooms, to their swimming pool. The issue you're talking about now is the civil rights issue of this generation. We've got to treat everybody fairly. And who are we to judge? That's the Pope, anybody's interested. Who are we to judge? And set one child against another. If we can't change the way people feel about each other, we can change the way they act. And that would be the best lesson they could learn, is that you have to tolerate everybody, no matter what their sexual orientation is. These things are God-given. Jesus himself said, some are born this way. I'm out of here.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Gavin Grimm.
Hello, everybody. I'm Gavin Grimm from Gloucester High School. I want to start by saying thank you, everyone who's come out to speak and exercising your rights to freedom of speech and being involved in the community. I thank every one of you who are going to speak and have spoken from the bottom of my heart. Now I want to say, I guess, where I'm coming from on this issue. I want to say that this has been a very, very long process. I've been aware of who I was since I was a very young kid, and it's taken me a very long time to be able to be myself and be okay with that. The person I am now, being able to have all of my rights in full, is such a massive, dynamic difference from the person I was just last summer. The person I was last summer was an inauthentic, incorrect, upset, angry person because I was not able to be myself. Gloucester High School has done something unimaginably wonderful for me, and I cannot thank my principals, my administration enough for that. I'm here today to urge the school board to consider, yes, all sides of it, that is, all factual sides of this issue, both in opposition and for me. I would like to say, too, that if the evidence said that me using the boys' room would be catastrophic, I would not be advocating for myself. Regardless of my personal emotions over this issue, I look only at the facts, as one should in an issue that requires separation of church and state and feelings and state. I guess in conclusion, I'd like to say thank you all for, again, exercising your right to speak here, and thank you for hearing my voice.
Thank you, Gavin. Ms. Deidre Graham? Yeah. And then Jacqueline Lehiff, it'll be next. I apologize if I messed up your name.
Hi, everybody. I'm Deirdre Grimm, and I'm the mom of that hot potato, that awesome, awesome kid. I know everybody thinks they know what we're going through, but if you haven't walked a mile in our shoes, you have no idea. I'm only here to thank the administration for the support that we've gotten so far. Gavin has been able to use the boys' bathroom since October the 20th, basically, and he's a different kid, just being able to exercise his rights. I'm here to implore you guys to vote the right way today. Don't take his rights back away from him after you've already given them to him. There's no other answer. No other answer. Thanks for letting me speak.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline Lehiff, and I'm from the Abington District in Hayes, Virginia. People of the school board, I first want to thank you for once again bringing up the subject, but for also taking the extra month to think about your decision on Gavin's behalf. I have known Gavin for nearly 2 years. He can always bring a smile to my face. He's an educator at heart, and he's more mature than any other sophomore I know. When I first met Gavin, I only knew the roughest definition of what transgender really meant. I believed it was simple as, so it's someone who's the opposite gender of the sex they were assigned at birth. What's so difficult to understand? However, as I began to educate myself, as anyone should when confronted with something they know little about, I realized it is much more than a simple feeling. It involves science and genetics. What caused me to speak for the last meeting for Gavin, though unprepared, and what made me decide to speak in a more formal manner at this one, is the concerns of parents. Is my child safe? Is Gavin safe? What if we encounter a male to female transgender child who wishes to use the women's restroom? To answer the first, Gavin has had maybe 1 or 2 issues with his peers. However, as I asked other friends I have that still attend Gloucester High, some who are in the LGBT community and some are not, each response was along the lines of, personally, I don't care. If you haven't told me he was transgender, I would have never known the difference. He looks like a guy to me. When it comes to a male to female transgender child, the topic of rape made way quite often in last month's meeting. Many parents were concerned that a male who was faking being transgender would just walk into the women's restroom and harm female students just because he was claiming to be female. Now, I'm not certain what has changed at Gloucester High since I graduated, but while I was there was no security guards monitoring each bathroom. Gavin is not only a friend, but he's an advocate for the other lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender students who attend Gloucester County Public Schools. He's an educator for the people who yearn to understand the situation and for those that feel as though they may be in a similar situation themselves. So please don't ignore this one brave 15-year-old voice when making your decision, because it may smother the hundreds of other voices that are in the crowd tonight, watching on TV at home, or reading the paper tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott Williams, and then Savannah Williams.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Scott Williams from the Gloucester Point District. I'm a freshman at Gloucester High School. I'm a student, and I'm here to respond to the claims of the Grimm family and the media that say students don't care one way or another what happens in the high school or who uses the bathrooms. We do care. The main reason you don't see more of us is because several of my friends have told me we're afraid to come to these meetings, that they're afraid of being bullied in school and in the community, of being labeled hateful or intolerant or sexist just because they're uncomfortable having a biological girl in the men's room. This is disgraceful, but it is precisely how we are treated in the school by our quote-unquote tolerant peers. How can you tolerate a public attitude that attacks children who are uncomfortable with pure and simple public indecency? Because that's the issue at hand, privacy, not a lifestyle. Why do you implement a dress code that won't allow short skirts if you allow someone to pull down their pants and use the restroom? Or completely change out for gym class in the same room with male students who are then exposed to more of a female body than it is acceptable to see in the hallways. In the rest of the building, people get suspended and expelled for that. Bathrooms and locker rooms are split based on physical genitalia for a reason. You can't allow people of the opposite gender to see those parts. That makes everyone involved uncomfortable. And it is, as the student code of conduct puts it, indecent, unsafe, disturbing, and disrespectful, or disruptive to the educational setting of the school. We cannot ignore, though, the students' discomfort. This is why the people of Gloucester County have proposed a compromise, a solution. We don't want to pay for the installment of a family restroom when there are facilities available, but we will to eliminate this discomfort. Won't you consider us enough to value our discomfort as much as we value the students? My friends and I are uncomfortable with co-ed bathrooms and locker rooms. Don't we matter too? How is it fair to advance of rights of one by violating the rights of 1,000? In the end, it's your decision. But I remind you that voting to let this go on because transgenders have a minority political claim is just as unfair as ignoring the rights completely because the majority has contrary interests.
Mr. Williams, could you close it up, if you?
Yes. No, the unisex restroom solution isn't perfect, but it's the best option. It's a compromise. Both sides give a little and get a little. This is how society advances, and I pray that you will vote to support this advance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Savannah Williams. I'm a senior at Gloucester High School from the Gloucester Point branch, and I'm going to skip my introduction and read like a rapper because I thought I had 3 minutes. What you need to know is that I'm going to be a journalist because I like facts, and I've got some facts for you tonight. Fact: psychological identity has no effect in changing biological features. Before surgery, transgenders have genitalia that doesn't match their mindset. Fact: transgender discomfort in using the bathrooms and locker rooms that match their bodies is important. You can't put them in there, that wouldn't be right. Fact: cisgender discomfort in inadvertently seeing genitals of the opposite sex when transgenders use the urinals, or in seeing people who are biologically different sex undressed in a locker room is also important. Unless you think we are less important, then you can't have co-ed bathrooms or locker rooms. Fact: in Gloucester High School, the dress code we adhere to does not allow for full or partial nudity in mixed company. In any other room in the high school, exposing genitalia in this manner will get a student expelled. Fact: despite what the world may tell you, discomfort with public indecency is not hateful or discriminatory. It's biology, not politics. Fact: family restrooms are a compromise, not a perfect solution for either party because they're expensive and they're separate, but a solution nonetheless. Fact: it's likely that the fear of a Title IX lawsuit is influencing your decisions. Fact: the reason that you've had such a large turnout at the last 2 meetings is that the high school has made a widely unpopular decision that many people are passionate about. This was remedied recently with the conversion of 3 restrooms at the high school. But if you choose to intervene, you will face a civil suit. It will be just as messy as a Title IX lawsuit. Fact: you are representatives, not monarchs. You represent us. We vote on you to protect us. I just filled out my voter's registration card a week ago, and I can tell you that you can make any decision you want, but if you don't vote to protect your constituents, you will not be reelected. I can certainly say that my vote will go to someone else. Fact: if you choose to vote that Gloucester County Public School restrooms should be made co-ed, you will be replaced, and we, the citizens of Gloucester, will reverse your decision with the new school board. I mean no disrespect, but blunt honesty may be what we need tonight. Sometimes people need a push, not a hug. This isn't a matter of discrimination against a lifestyle. This is physical nudity. It's not a complicated issue, and I don't want this to be made more complicated than it has to be. So please do yourselves and Gloucester County a favor. Save us the money and strife. Rule logically, remembering the facts.
Thank you. Catherine Lindsay. And then Diane Carter DeMayo will be next.
Good afternoon. This community has spoken loudly and often. We do not want a policy of biological boys and biological girls in the same facilities where an expectation of privacy exists. We want and expect you, this is your job, to come up with a functional, safe, and appealing environment for every student in Gloucester County Public Schools. We ask you to vote for Carla Hook's proposal, and it would satisfy keeping the biological sexes apart while providing such a safe alternative private facility for students involved. Students involved. Political activists act as though privacy rights are not important or not constitutional. They want to dismiss an entire student body's rights to further their political agenda. That's what this has become, make no doubt about it. There is no state or federal law that overrides my student's right to his and her expectation of privacy. The ACLU, in their letter to the school board, which is available online to those of you here, made it very clear that no child matters in this decision except for their client. The ACLU stated, and I quote, "Generalized and speculative concerns about the privacy cannot justify a blanket policy preventing a transgender boy from using the same restrooms as other boys." Generalized and speculative. Interesting choice of words, I found that. I beg to differ. Our concerns are founded, well thought out, and our rights are constitutionally protected. But their attitude of division and arrogance and their agenda in this community will tear us all apart. Gavin matters, absolutely, 100% in your decision, but so does every child in grades K through 12 under your jurisdiction. Please keep that in mind as you vote tonight. The ACLU also stated in this letter that, quote, "Students at GHS do not perceive Gavin's use of boys' restrooms as an invasion of privacy or as any problem at all," end quote. Apparently they didn't call my house, that's all I have to say.
Ms. Lindsay, it's time.
Instead, I know plenty of people who have major concerns, and I'm trying to cut this short.
Well, we're out of time.
Second,
wrap it up.
I am. Secondly, and let's be clear on this, there is no Virginia state or federal law that states public schools have to provide students with a use of a bathroom in which they gender identify with. The ACLU provided you with 8 cases. I looked up all 8 and spent many time on the computer. The first one is in Colorado. It doesn't apply. They have a state law.
I'm going to have to call you.
Only one of those was involved with a bathroom. Everything was harassment, bullying, and sexual violence. The only one that was involved in a bathroom is they used a faculty bathroom and not a student.
Thank you. Miss Diane Carter. And then Andrew Pellis is next.
Hi. I'm Diane Carter DeMayo. I'm from Hayes. I'm a reformed lawyer and a civics teacher. 40 years ago, somebody stood up for me. They stepped out of their comfort zone and they said separate but equal is not equal. I teach in another district. On November 4th, we received in-service training in which Arnie Duncan and the Department of Education on a videotape clarified that treating people differently because they don't conform to our expectations of how someone of their gender should be is sex discrimination and a violation of Title IX. Last week, at the community conversation at the library, I learned that Superintendent Staples at the Virginia Department of Education says Virginia should follow the federal law. Gloucester High School staff and administration have wisely handled this most private matter in-house, and I commend them for their thoughtfulness. This month, I taught rule of law. I teach civics. I taught the rules apply to everybody. I taught the constitutional respect for the will of the majority has to respect the rights of the minority. If 8th graders can figure this out, we can do this. Guys, Gloucester can't afford another stupid lawsuit we will lose. Everybody who is legally knowledgeable has told us, even if it's hard, we must do the right thing. And we need to respect this young person's rights. Thank you.
Andrew. Then it's Amy Van Fossen. Will be next.
My name is Andrew Pallas. I live in the Gloucester Point District. I have 4 students that are in the Gloucester County school system. I'm going to start by reading 2 definitions and make 3 points. Definitions by Webster's, not by the ACLU, not by the ADF, not by GLAD or anybody else who has a supposed nonpartisan spin on this. Webster's. Google it. Sex. Either of 2 main categories, male or female, into which humans and many other living things are divided based on their reproductive functions. Gender. The state of being male or female, typically used with respect to social or cultural differences rather than biological ones. Bathrooms are divided by sex, not gender. Not some made-up term that some organization wants you to believe is the truth. It's designated by sex, reproductive organs. Common sense. The decision you make tonight needs to be based in fact and not fear. Not fear of the ACLU, which has presented a letter to you that isn't based in fact and actually does a disservice to the client it represents. The precedent doesn't apply in this case. It's a threat made by a boogeyman, by a bully organization, and I'm not going to stand for it. This decision needs to represent the best interest of all citizens. You're elected to be representatives, not activists. Okay, not to organize Equality Virginia group meetings in high school. That's not what school board members do. Fear of a lawsuit does not determine how local, state, or federal government works. You're not here to kowtow to GLAD, the ACLU, or anyone else. You're here to make a decision in the best interest of the entire school system. If fear of a lawsuit wins, then you have failed. If it's a lawsuit you fear, then be prepared. You're going to get one either way. And based off my real estate tax assessment, the county can afford it. Dissatisfaction. I am dissatisfied that we're forced to take time away from other important issues like the total mismanagement of the school district by the school board and the administration. Teacher dissatisfaction with this administration. Don't say it's not at an all-time high, because it is.
15 seconds, Mr. Pellis.
This monstrosity of a school you have being built down the road that we still haven't figured out how we're going to fully pay for, and the imminent danger of our high school losing accreditation in several areas. These issues have been identified by us, teachers, parents, and people in Richmond. They're talking about it. I've got more trust in the United States Congress right now than I have in my own school board, and that's sad and pathetic. You got conflict of interest on this school board regarding this case, and you don't have the integrity to stand up and recuse yourself.
Mr. Chair, we will not be berated by this gentleman. He needs to sit down. We're not going to be berated by this gentleman.
Finally, I'll close it up. We don't have the money to send our children to private school like some people do, okay? And but we do have the power to vote you out of office, and we will do that. Or relocate if we have to.
Sir, your time is up.
Thank you.
Everyone, I would ask that we hold our applause or our reactions to the speakers, if you want to the end, so we could get through all these, and so there's no other further interruptions in between. Thank you. Ms. Van Fossen.
Thank you. Dr. Clements, Mr. Burak, members of the board, Mr. Wilmot, you know I can't talk in 2 minutes, so help me out here. There's 3 topics that I want to address today. The first are a series of letters, and I heard what Ms. Carter said. Ms. Carter talked about the Department of Education. And these are the things that I keep hearing. And I have a copy of the ACLU letter. If I hadn't written all over it, I'd have disseminated it tonight. Here's what I hear. I hear DOE, DOJ, OCR, MOU. Those are things that are policy. Ms. Carter brought up the civics class. Our civics class taught us that our branches of government are separated. DOE, DOJ, OCR, MOU does not equal LAW. Those are executive determinations telling you how they interpret a law. I respect what the pastor has to say. There is no court case in the United States of America that has decided this issue. There are absolutely none. There has been a lot of legislative movement to make transgender a protected class. It is not. That has repeatedly been objected. It has been rejected by the Senate, has been rejected by the House. The second thing that I want to talk about is the ACLU letter, and it disturbs me terribly. It bothers me terribly that an outside agency is coming and basically threatening you as school board members. And if you took a moment to look at the last page, I don't know who Joshua A. Block is, staff attorney, but as an attorney, when something is important to me, I actually sign it myself. I don't have someone else sign it for me and put their initials beside it.
15 seconds.
So I don't think that's appropriate for our county. And the last thing that I mentioned is trust. I want all of the school board members and everyone in this room, and I'm going to put her on the spot, to understand how well-educated Carla Hook is as a lawyer. Carla is a former education lawyer, and you're going to have to figure out someone in the room to trust. Whether you are trusting the guidance from the school board members, the DOE, the ACLU, I recommend to you that you trust Ms. Hook's recommendation and that you support her proclamation. Thank you.
Adam Carpenter. Adam? I hope I'm pronouncing your last name right. It looks like Carpenter. And then Campbell Farina will be next.
Hello, my name is Adam Carpenter. I'm a resident of Gloucester Point District. I'm here to speak on 2 issues under consideration by the school board. Firstly, I'd like to lend support to efforts that increase the privacy available to students using either school bathrooms or locker rooms. These facilities have long been the primary location for schoolhouse bullying and intimidation. Private, gender-neutral bathrooms provide a safe zone for students suffering from bullying or wanting to conceal any number of other stigmatizing conditions. In addition, I'm here to request that the school board make no formal policy regarding the use of gender-segregated facilities by transgender students. While I support the individual rights of transgender persons, I believe that many people are already here to discuss that aspect of the issue. However, I believe that there are additional concerns about the privacy and harassment of students at large, which the school board and general population may not have considered. Some have expressed concerns about placing a teenage transgender boy in a male segregated facility and how that could create a situation where both the transgender boy and others with whom he shares a facility will make them unnecessarily comfortable. In addition, potential harassment and privacy problems could arise. What I find more concerning would be to force a transgender boy who is possibly receiving medical treatment to become more masculine and maybe sexually interested in women to continue using the girls' bathrooms and locker room. The latter scenario seems to me much more likely to cause psychological damage to transgender teens as they are forced into roles not matching their gender identity, while simultaneously creating an environment that tempts all involved with taking inappropriate action. Since the school board is not legally required to intervene in this situation, and since any policy the school board is likely to impose may participate in some sort of litigation, I request the school board continue to give the school administrators the authority and latitude to work with transgender students to ensure that their newly expressed gender identity is allowed to be respectfully nurtured. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Campbell, you're next. After Ms. Farina, it'll be Karen Pauley.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Campbell Farina. I'm the student representative for the high school. I just wanted to share a couple comments with you that I've heard from other students. One says that until Gavin has had a sex change, he should not use the boys' bathroom. Bathrooms are meant to suit gender, not satisfy a social profile. Another says that I feel as a community we should try to make Gavin and other LGBT youth as comfortable as possible. If Gavin wants to use the men's restroom, we should let him. A third says that I really do believe that Gavin should be allowed to use whichever restroom he likes. There are stalls to keep us separate, and the level of privacy is perfect. My respect and help goes out to him. So, as you can see, people keep asking me what the general opinion of the high school is, but obviously from what I just read, there really isn't one, because everyone has their own take on this situation. But putting opinions aside, there is one thing that I think everyone can agree on, and that is that our schools need money to continue to operate. But if Gloucester County is found in violation of Title IX or any other sexual discrimination laws, we run a huge risk of being investigated by civil rights and losing tons and tons of federal funding for our schools. So honestly, what's more important, your pride or your kids' education? I'm just asking you all to look at the bigger picture here. We go to school to focus on our education, not to worry about what bathroom we're going to use. I'm asking you to put your personal opinions and beliefs aside. I'm asking you to forget about what makes you uncomfortable and just focus on what's ultimately good for this county and good for our students. But I promise you this isn't an issue that's going to go away. It's only going to get bigger, and we need to get used to it, and we need to get it right the first time. Thank you.
And then Barbara Kegg is the next person.
Hi, my name's Karen Pauley. I'm from the White Marsh District. I have a granddaughter that's not yet at the high school, and if this is passed, she will not be at this high school. If he has had a gender change, sex change, that's fine. But right now, when our young men are in the bathroom for privacy reasons, when there are urinals, he has no right, or she has no right, to use a bathroom where the men are exposed. That makes them uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable. It is not fair for our students to have to be fearful to go into their own restroom. Even like the young gentleman said, they don't speak out because they're afraid they're going to be called bullies. They have rights, just like he does, and I understand that. Put him in a separate bathroom if that's what it's going to take. Like they said, there's the nurse's restroom. There's your restrooms. If you feel comfortable enough, you male men, that you want to put him in the boys' room, let him go to the bathroom with you. Don't allow him to be with the underage children who do not have a voice, that are not standing up here because they are afraid that they're going to get busted in school by somebody for saying the wrong thing. Take care of our children. Let my granddaughter and other 5 grandchildren attend this school. And like many have said, I also have a voter's card. And I'm not afraid to use it. And I will vote every single one of you off of this board if you do not protect our children. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Barbara King. And then Michael Enns will be next.
Hi, thank you very much for hearing me, to the school board, Dr. Clemens, and everyone else who's here. I'm in the Abingdon School District. My daughter recently graduated from Gloucester High. I just have heard a lot about political agendas, common sense, bullies, and a whole heck of a lot about genitals. But you know, this isn't just about genitals, and it's not just about Gavin. The world is recognizing the fact that there is a lot of diversity in gender expression. This is a natural thing. It's not just in our community, and it's certainly not just Gavin. People with variant gender expression are all around. We know many of them. They're part of our lives. I don't really understand what is so frightening about this prospect of change and giving someone civil rights as he deserves. I'd like to suggest that we need to move away from the constant focus on biology, because being transgender is about a lot more than biology. It's about deeply felt needs, deeply felt identities, and we do have an obligation in this community to protect the safety of transgender teens. Now, I understand that people are worried about their kids' privacy. What I don't understand is, why is it a problem to go into the bathroom, shut the door on the stall? I understand that this will be possible in both bathrooms, and just go to the bathroom and then leave the bathroom. I don't understand why this is such a big deal. Separate and equal is not equal. So what I'd like to suggest is that we in Gloucester have a chance to do the right thing, not just based on lawsuits, right, not just based on tolerance, but because we're better than that. We should have love and inclusion for all kinds of people and protect all our children, but do so with understanding what the risks are realistically, and not all these imagined things that are going to happen when kids just go to the bathroom. So I urge you to vote against the policy. Thank you.
Thank you. As Mr. Mike Enns comes to the podium, Catherine Foley will be next, and then Mark Farina.
I have 2 more sheets. Chairman Burlack, members of the board, Superintendent Clemens, thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. I've seen a lot of press accounts, read things from the ACLU, and as I stated in the correspondence that I forwarded to you, I don't know what planet these people are on. Okay, I'm not sure they know what planet they're on. They're not in touch with the Gloucester community. As relayed by the young lady that sits there, there's mixed views and opinions. Yet the accounts that we continuously hear about is nobody has a problem with it. Look around you. Listen to the people. Okay? Liberal Daily Press, yesterday, December 7th, 73 years post-World War II, or beginning of World War II, many Americans, women and men, sacrificed their lives for our rights and our freedoms. Got about this much coverage. Shame on you, Daily Press. ACLU letter. Bottom line, do things our way or else. I thought, this is interesting. Only one thought came to mind. Who's the bully now? Each of these entities addresses the wants and desires of the few, or the one. The school board must act on behalf of the rights and the needs of the many. Your guideline, the laws of nature. They cannot be disputed and they cannot be ignored. As confirmed by this nation's forefathers, positive law enacted by people must be in line with the laws of nature.
15 seconds, Mr. Enns.
ACLU, in the phrases that they have, hostile, alienation, disruption, environment, this is all true. This is exactly how this type of negative and disruptive environment will likely affect many of the male students if cross-gender use of the facilities in the restrooms is granted by the members of the board. I urge you to vote in favor of those male students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Catherine Foley and Mark Farina will be next.
Good evening. I had a lot of facts that I wanted to bring up, but the young people, Mr. Williams and Miss Williams, pretty much covered it all. I'm proud of them for all of their knowledge. I am proud of Jackie and Gavin for all of their knowledge. I mean, I think that we're a community that loves everybody. However, I don't feel like we are actually responding to what we need to, and that's that there are several children that want to use a bathroom that's not their gender. And it's not about feelings, it is about facts. I am a mom that my son's in 10th grade. He plays sports. I would not allow him in a locker room with a woman undressing. Nor would he'd be expelled if you found him sexting. If he had a picture of a girl's vagina right up in the, on his phone, the school would expel him. But we're allowed to drop our pants. I mean, it goes back to it's as simple as kindergarten cop. If you have a penis, you're a boy and you go in the boy's bathroom. If you have a vagina, you're a girl and you go in the girl's bathroom. I'm proud of whoever they want to be, if they want to be lesbian, gay, if they want to be straight, if they want to be bi, let them be what they want to be. But this is not a problem for the school. Actually, in the state of Virginia, there's been one court case where the VHSL was challenged because they wanted to have boys or girls play in boys' leagues that were transgenders. And there was a guideline that said, a student athlete will complete in the gender of their birth certificate unless undergone sex reassessment. A person is considered transgender when he or she identifies with a gender other than his or her birth.
15 seconds, ma'am.
Okay. This includes changes in dress or appearance, but to comply with the league's policy, the athlete will have to make physical changes too. The athlete must have undergone sex reassignment, including surgical removal of the external sex organs and the ovaries or testes. He or she must undergo hormonal therapy such that it minimizes gender-related advantages in sport. If the student stops taking hormonal, then they can't do it. So, I don't think there's a problem. If the Virginia court hasn't deemed her a man, then we have 2 bathrooms that people use.
Thank you. Mr. Farina?
Thank you. I'm Mark Farina. I've sat here and listened to these comments for the last 2 meetings, and the first thing I would ask all of the board members to do, and those that speak after me, is first ask yourself, how would you want this handled if this was your child? I haven't heard any of those comments or any consideration of that in the last 2 months. Secondly, I keep hearing about these threats, and statistics simply just don't back it up. My son in the bathroom is no more threatened by this young man than any other young man that walks into that bathroom. If anything, he's less threatened. And if you don't allow it, then you are forcing this man to go into the women's bathroom. You can't force him to go to a special bathroom, I don't believe. So if you don't allow him in the men's bathroom, he has to go into the women's bathroom, or he has to be allowed to go into the women's bathroom. Now you do have a threat on your hand, or a concern. I've heard people talk about, well, where does this end? What about the elementary school? What about a boy that, because boys will be boys, just decides that he wants to identify as a female and go into the women's bathroom? That's a simple matter to handle. You don't just allow someone to identify as that and go. This young man's going through a transformation. He's begun the whole process. You set parameters on what qualifies as identifying as a different gender.
Not just because I say I want to be a woman, I can go into the woman's bathroom and have my fun. And lastly, as a taxpayer, I've heard a few threats, and I apologize for them, but as a taxpayer, I do say that you do have a fiduciary responsibility, and you do have to give consideration and obviously consult with the legal advisors as to how this decision impacts our county and us as taxpayers. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
East Williams and Howard Mowry. And after Howard, it'll be Paul Martin.
Good evening, members of the board. I need to make it very clear I'm speaking on behalf of myself and not the radio station that I work for. Despite there always being a gray area of me sharing what I have for breakfast and lunch and what I do, this is the capacity of myself. I don't think Gavin's situation is meant to challenge anybody's morals or beliefs or values. This isn't a group trying to force an alternative lifestyle on anyone. This is about recognizing that not all of us have the liberty of being accepted for who we are. It has absolutely nothing to do with sexuality. He hasn't even gotten there yet in his life. Maybe, I don't know. I shouldn't assume, but has nothing to do with sexual identity. This is just who he is. It's hard enough for kids' self-esteem to be teased for braces and their hairdo and their weight and the style of their clothing, and I don't feel that we have any business ostracizing a child while they're in our care at all. It is our responsibility to the children in our lives as the adults to make them feel special and loved and creative and beautiful and proud and clever, and we need to act like those adults in our children's lives. Thank you.
Thank you. It'll be Paul Martin and then Janet West after Mr. Mowry.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Clemens, staff, members in the audience, Howard Mowry, Gloucester Point. As many are aware, we have a mix here tonight of old school ideology and the new progressive liberal thoughts concerning gender psychologies of our youth in the government school system of today. The secondary level becomes more complex since the sexes are either separate in certain activities or can be mixed, and in reality who consider themselves opposites. Some young adolescents are genetically thinking with more than one gender identification. Many born one way over time decide to have a desire to be the opposite of their birth identification. In today's world, this is accepted by some and life goes on. The individual will be left with the physical and psychological identifications after leaving the government's policy and schooling system. The question now has to be answered: how many times can a minor under the age of 18 decide to change their mental physical description to fit the needs of the individual for the existing moment? Should the government, who is in charge of the students for the largest part of any day as minors, be required to burden the taxpayer with debt or expense to accommodate a minute minority of the population for the psychological whim of the moment, or for a minority that may, upon medical evaluation, need assistance that is not available within the current home or government-controlled educational environment? Think long and hard tonight. What will your decision accomplish? What opinion will you leave with the voters of this county? What will the next student come up with that stretches the imagination of a possible confused or disturbed individual as they wander through the maze of growing into the adult world?
15 seconds.
When these students leave this government cocoon, what will the student do as they are turned loose on the wolves of today's society? Is it morally right for us to kneel or bow to a very few who demand that they receive a special identification to meet needs of their own perceived body functions? I thank you for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Mowry. Paul Martin, then Janet West.
Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Clemens, administrative staff of Gloucester. I'm from the Gloucester Point District and currently have 2 children in the Gloucester County school system. I thank you for giving me the opportunity again to share comments tonight, not as a father, but as a current supporter of the Gloucester County school system. Education of our children is the most important. And this happens effectively when you have the support of the administration, parents, and the community. I will say the school board, whatever decision you make tonight, it's a no-win situation. But you do have and will have support of our county, depending on which way you vote. No matter what your vote, there are going to be legal consequences on either side. Do what is dictated within the Commonwealth of Virginia. In order, and based on the newsletter issued by the Gloucester High School principal, the high school and school board, possibly, they're making a safe alternative for all children to use the restroom in a unisex bathroom. That is a safe alternative for all children. Now,
15 seconds, Mr.
That's fine. This was a primary concern of previous speakers. Our society seems driven by groups that always want more and are never satisfied. When you register your child as a student in Gloucester High School or the public school system, you issue a birth certificate. That is a legal document. It's an M or an F. I propose moving forward that we carry on with Mrs. Hook's recommendation, and with that being said, by providing a safe alternative in our school system, those in favor, if you would stand.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Martin. Ms. West, Janet West, and then Linda Wall.
Good evening. My name is Janet West, and I represent Hayes. I have a 10th grader. I have a son. He goes to 10th grade. And I don't feel right for my son to go in a bathroom, to share a bathroom with a young girl. Now, we're here talking about this young lady. Where is my child respect? Where is his rights? Where is his respect? And you know what? I want rights for my child too. And if I can't get rights for my child, then like that gentleman back there, I have a voter's card and all will lose their job also. That's all I have to say, short and sweet.
Linda Wall. Ms. Wall, what district are you in?
Linda Wall.
What district?
I come to you from Buck Road today.
All right.
Because I heard that anybody could speak. I come to you as a former educator. Wouldn't it be great if we could just get back to teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic? How have we gotten so far away from why schools were created and established? Think about it. But I also come to you as a former lesbian. I was raised in a Southern Baptist family, deacon dad, Sunday school teacher mom, and brother preacher. But when I went away to college, I decided to experiment and try some things. So lo and behold, when an older woman made advances towards me, I knew I couldn't get pregnant. It sounded like a simple solution and decided to try it. But I tell you, by trying it, I became addicted for 10 years in that world of lesbianism. But I finally reached the end of my road one day, contemplating suicide. I wanted out. I was tired. So my heart goes out to what's going on with the kids today. It's been 30 years since Jesus Christ set me free. You know, we've forgotten that God created a man and a woman. We've allowed them to remove prayer from the school 52 years ago, and here we stand 52 years later dealing with this issue. Wide is the way that leads to destruction. But I didn't stop when I became a born-again Christian. For 2 years I researched why was I succumbed by this. And I want to tell you, those 2 years of research, I found the other side overinflate statistics, they withhold information, and they deliberately mislead you. And now I see one more entity hopping on the runaway train. I ask you to let's get back to basics.
The next speaker is D. Mitchell. D. Mitchell. And here he comes. And then David Wilcox after Mr. Mitchell. Don Mitchell, and then David Wilcox.
Mr. Burdock, Mr. Clements, members of the board, Don Mitchell, York District. We have here in part an issue of common sense versus legal fiat. This is a round peg. It goes in a round hole. Square pegs don't fit in round holes. Irrespective of what a government hallucinating on its own power may rule, you do not have an unalienable right to choose your own sex. Nature's God chose it for you. That's right. Diversity and societal cohesion. We hear those who worship at the altar of diversity. Diversity, they say, is wonderful. Diversity can be good, but diversity can also be a disaster. Let's take a short look at history. A good look at the diversity would be the melting pot of the U.S. when people came from all over the world, adopted the common standard, and the society for many became one. A less good look would be the Roman Empire, where the czars deliberately kept the different ethnic groups separated and then used them to kill off each other as different groups disagreed with what he was doing. Let's take a look at some other diversity issues today. We have Sharia. We have Sharia-compliant foods and honor killings here in the country. We have misfits. Here we have 1,000 students versus one freak. Who should accommodate whom?
Mr. Mitchell,
polygamy.
I'm going to have to ask you to stay on topic, and there's no personal attack, sir.
Polygamy, that was not a personal attack, and a member of the board said polygamy is now in the courts and may be unavoidable. In Massachusetts, a judge opined that rapists should be given licenses. Pedophilia is also now before the courts as a preference, as is bestiality. Can you marry your dog?
15 seconds, Mr. Mitchell.
There are people who want to. If you want to consider yourself a dog, must we use tax dollars to install fire hydrants where you can publicly relieve your slaves? Government is not reason. It is not eloquence. It is force. That's a quote from George Washington.
Time's up, Mr.
Like
Mitchell.
fire, it's a dangerous servant and a deadly master. Thank you.
Mr. Wilcox is next, and then Terry Brennan.
Hello, my name is Dave Wilcox from the York District, just up the road. My faith leads me to address you tonight, and I believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every person. I believe in compassion as a guiding principle. Therefore, I ask you to listen carefully to the student and those that love him. It seems to me the school has addressed the situation, and there is no need for a hastily created local policy imposed by the school board. I ask that you reject the proposed policy. Thank you.
Terry Brennan.
Terry Brennan, I'm in Abington District. I addressed this last month, and I'll say it again. Gavin, your safety and the safety of every child.
Mr. Brennan, please address the board. Mr. Brennan, okay. We have to address the board, not the public.
Okay. I just want Gavin to know that his safety is most important, okay, as is the safety of all the children, every child. That's what it's all about, okay? My God calls me to love everyone. Gavin, I love you. You're my brother. You are my brother now, if that's what you declare yourself to be, okay? My Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, is the Savior. He is the way. He is the truth. The truth is the ACLU and every other organization is lying to you, Gavin. They do not have your best interest at hand. They could care less about you, Gavin.
Please address the board.
They could care less about this. There is ideology in place. That's all they care about. Okay? This school board has a right to protect our children. Protect all of our children. Go with the motion to make a gender-neutral area for the children where they can be safe. That's all I ask you. Make all the children safe. This other stuff, it's all fluff. Safety of the children, please. Thank you.
The next speaker will be Adele Larson, and I apologize. Michelle Larson, and then Maritza Cooper will be after that.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Larson.
I'm sorry.
That's fine. I am from the York District. Since the last board meeting, I've spent a lot of time educating myself on all sides of this issue. There are no patterns of negative outcomes in places where people who are transgender use the facilities of their choice. So I would simply like to state that I support students who are transgender using the facilities of their choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Maritza Cooper, and then Ira Johnson.
Hi, my name is Maritza Cooper, and I am from the Petsworth District. I have a student here at Gloucester High School. He's an 11th grader. He's my grandson. I'm what's called a come here. I was born and raised in Manhattan. I was raised my entire life around gays, lesbians, transsexuals, people who were very different. I was bullied as a child. I was beat up walking back and forth on my way home many times. But I also, and I feel for Gavin. I know he is going through a difficult time. But I am not comfortable with my grandson standing at a urinal and having someone who is biologically still a female walking in there. Someone stated that you can just use a stall. Well, that's great, there is a stall, but there's also urinals. And I'm not comfortable with him or any of the young men that I know. And most of the guys that I know are not happy with that. They're standing there. They're exposed. I'm not saying she's going to be looking, or he, excuse me. My apologies, Gavin. But I don't think it's fair to them. I don't care what anybody is. I'm very, very liberal as far as I could care less if you're gay, straight, bi, black, white, green, or purple. It makes no difference to me. I judge people by their character. I do not judge people by their sexual orientation or their color. But it's not fair to the rest of the kids to have to stand there, as I said, in a urinal while someone who is still biologically female is walking in. Use the alternative. Give Gavin and any other children that want to use it another alternative. Thank you.
Thank you. Ira Johnson. And then Gabrielle Johnson. That's it so far. That's going to be it.
Hi, I'm Ira Johnson from the Petsworth District, and I'm probably going to be the first one to commend the school board tonight. I got the phone call saying that y'all would provide 3 restrooms that would be unisex. And I feel that is the only way there is diversity and inclusion for all the kids at Gloucester High. Everybody has a place at the table, but you can't take from one to provide for the other. And our job as parents and school board and teachers is to prepare our child for when they walk out of Gloucester High to be ready for the world. And I'm fortunate enough to work for a Fortune 500 company, and we dealt with these issues years ago. And I know they think, the kids, that this is new, but your job as school board members and us as parents is to prepare everybody for what the real world is like. And my job, we have unisex restrooms already. That is the real world. That is what we're preparing them for. So we can't hold back the system to what we were yesterday. So thanks to the child in question, they have raised us up to a new level in this county, one that we should have been at 10 years ago. And also, I even asked the question today, I had a meeting, what would we do in this situation if it came up again? And we would do just like we did 3 years ago. We built unisex restrooms in our new facilities, and we are prepared to change them in our old facilities if it comes in question. So I urge the school board to vote no for Gavin using the restroom, only if they will commit to providing unisex restrooms for all kids, for everyone can be included at the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Gabriella Johnson.
Hi, my name is Gabrielle Johnson. I'm from Ware District. A lot of people have mentioned Title IX, but no one's exactly explained what it is for those who don't know. For those who don't know, this rule was written in 1972 to protect equal rights for women in school programs and activities. The U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights is a group who writes these rules. In early 2014, they wrote a guideline for Title IX. Among the topics, this includes a statement that changes the game for gender identity, not sexual orientation. Now, Title IX applies to gender identity or failure to conform to stereotypical notions of masculinity or femininity. This means that any student discriminated against because of their gender identity or how they express their gender is protected too. United States Department of Civil Rights Office for Civil Rights was asked the question, does Title IX protect all students from sexual violence? And this would be under that term. The answer is yes. Any student can experience sexual violence from elementary to professional school students, male and female students, straight, gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender students. With that being said, here is my take on this. With the lawsuit on either side, we're losing money for our school's education. So there are thousands of students like me in Gloucester High School that would lose money for our education because of a silly lawsuit. I understand that the other boys would feel uncomfortable with Gavin in the restroom with them, but Gavin would feel uncomfortable in the restroom with the girls. So we all need to realize that someone is going to feel uncomfortable in either situation. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the last person I had that had signed up to speak. I'll call if there's any other person that would like to approach the board and speak this evening. Go ahead. I would need your name and your district.
Would you like me to write it down?
Yeah, that'll be fine. Here you go.
I'm Christina Klein. I'm from Guinea. I guess that would be Hayes District. I'd just like to say I am awestruck that so many people are threatening the school board. That's not how you win favor for anything. And I am very into history. It's my forte. I've got Mr. Eccleston over there. He's a great teacher. And I'd like to quote, as far as the religion aspect goes, I'd like to quote Thomas Jefferson. There's a wall, a separation of church and state. You can't, the school is under federal government, so as well, I don't think many of the adults here understand how it works in school anymore. I was never comfortable changing in front of other women, so there is a place that you can change. There are bathrooms within the gym room where you can change and not be in front of other male students. As well, in the bathrooms, for men's bathrooms, there are stalls, and I'm fairly certain that
most of the men, and I can't speak for all of them, but I'm not sure that they'd be completely opposed to using the bathroom anymore if there was a man that still had female genitalia. And with Gavin, it's completely different because it's not like he's just saying, oh, I'm a man now because I want to be in the man's bathroom. Most men can't do that and say they're just a woman. Gavin is actually going through psychology. He's taking all of these medications, and he's going through, he's going to, hopefully one day, he'll be able to get an operation to change himself fully. You'd have to have something to prove that you actually were a woman if you were a man trying to be a woman. So that's a whole different story, and it doesn't really apply
15
here.
seconds,
but,
ma'am.
Also, using another bathroom that's unisex is a big problem because the high school is very small. There is plenty of rooms for students to be in. The hallways are extremely small. It's very hard just to get to your class in 5 minutes. Anyway, if you have to walk all the way to the nurse's office to use the bathroom, you're not going to make it to class. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to approach the board?
I would.
All right. Here. Yeah, let me just leave one up there, and then they could do it.
Thank you.
You can get that name. Yeah.
My name is Alex Westfall. I am from the Gloucester Courthouse District. I am a transgendered individual that went to Gloucester High School. From my understanding, Gloucester has changed a lot since I went there. I graduated in 2010. I did not identify as a transgendered male at the time, so I cannot understand what Gavin is going through at this moment. Although, from my understanding, they've even put privacy stalls for the urinals. The locker rooms, all locker rooms, female and male locker rooms, have those shower areas that people go to shower when they don't feel comfortable. I cannot speak for Gavin, but if I was Gavin and I was able to use the male restrooms, I probably would have used those shower areas so that other people wouldn't feel uncomfortable. Those stalls are a main attraction, I would say, to people for privacy. There are plenty of cisgendered males, cisgendered meaning somebody who is not a transgendered individual, cisgender meaning that's somebody who was born and that born one gender also identifies with that same correct gender. But even people who are cisgender still use the male stall restrooms. It does not mean just because you have male genitalia, you have to stand up to pee and use a urinal. And also, from my understanding, they are putting privacy strips on all of the restrooms. So no matter what is going on, you cannot see, you cannot hear, you cannot understand what they are doing. I just wanted to say
15 seconds.
That being a transgendered individual who lives in Gloucester, there are a lot of setbacks. There are a lot of things that are very uncomfortable. But I really do commend all of you guys for not just thinking on Gavin's behalf, but actually trying to do something. Thank you.
Thank you. If you could sign your name and your district.
Yes, sir.
I think you'll be the last speaker this evening.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, board. Good evening, the public. I do not have a speech prepared. I would just like to say stuff based on what I've heard tonight. And I would like to say that for those of you who have not been in a guy's bathroom at the high school, there are some. I've only been in one. I haven't actually tried out every bathroom in the high school.
I'm sorry, could you speak into the microphone?
I apologize, everyone. Sorry. Okay. For those of you who have not been in a guy's bathroom before, I've been in one, and there were no separation between urinals. And I have been in another where I stood up inside a stall, and I could see 2 stalls over. And I'm not trying to say that Gavin does not belong in a guy's bathroom. I'm saying that the unisex bathroom is a good idea. But I'd also like to say that we have had transgenders in Gloucester High School in the past, and it was not an issue. And the argument about using the nurse's office and not making it to class, when they approached the principal about it, they had a teacher company or a 1 or 2 minute allowment where they could get to class with a note that would allow them to use the bathroom in between classes, and it was fine. I would also like to face the argument about separate but equal is not equal. That would supply for something like race, but I feel like supplying that to gender would say that all guys and girls can use any bathroom they would like. And I do not believe that that is accurate. And I'm sorry if I'm infringing anyone's beliefs, but that is how I feel. Thank you for letting me share my opinion.
Thank you. At this time, I'm closing public comment period. All right. Is there any other people that would like to speak? Please sign your name and your district, and then we'll close it up.
All right. My name is Kelly Williams. I'm from the Gloucester Point District. Let me write that down. I have taught my children, like it or not, you follow the rules. You follow the rules and it keeps the peace. Just because you may want something, you have to follow the rules. That keeps the peace. It is the law. It is the way we work around here, and they have been very successful. I just think that we should stick to that. Why do we go so off? You know, Europeans come here, do we need to put a bidet in the bathroom? Really? Come on, we're not going to do that. You follow the rules. Don't like it, lump it. Do what you're supposed to. Use the correct bathroom. And if that's not good, then provide one. If you're not pleased with that and you're uncomfortable, you know, our children are uncomfortable, you're uncomfortable. We're all uncomfortable. Then use the third choice. The third unisex bathroom, the one anybody can use if they would like to. And I think that's nice. It'll be expensive for us, but I think as citizens of Gloucester, we're willing to do that. So that's what I propose. And there are no laws in Virginia that say we have to do anything else. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to thank everyone for coming forward and speaking this evening and providing your input. It really helps the board. It's what we've been going over for the past month since our last school board meeting. So with that said, public comment period is over, and we will take the next item on the agenda, which is school board member items. And the first one is the VSBA Capital Conference, which is on Monday, January 26th of 2015. Ms. Kamash needs to know if any school board members would like to attend. And then the next item is adoption of the resolution funding of public education in Virginia. It was in your packages, and I was wondering if there was a motion on that particular funding resolution.
Yes, I would make a motion that we adopt that resolution as written with no changes, and I don't see the need to read it out loud because it was rather long.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? And if I heard you right, Mr. Anderson, you said we will not read it out loud because it is very long and it is supporting the funding for the school system. All right. Hearing none, Ms. Kamash, can you poll the board because it involves money?
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Records?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Hood?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Ms. Hensley?
Yes.
Mr. Burek?
Yes. Okay. The next item on the agenda is where we left off from last month. And it was the discussion of the use of the restroom, locker room facilities. We stated that a motion was postponed at the November 11th, 2014 until December the 9th, this evening, meeting, and was the order of consideration at that time. Ms. Hook read the following resolution and made a motion to adopt the said resolution. Whereas the Gloucester County Public School recognizes that some students question their gender identities, and whereas the Gloucester County Public Schools encourages such students to seek support, advice, and guidance from parents, professionals, and other trusted adults, and whereas the Gloucester County Public Schools seeks to provide a safe learning environment for all students and to protect the privacy of all students. Therefore, it shall be the practice of Gloucester County Public Schools to provide male and female restroom, locker room facilities in its schools, and the use of said facilities shall be limited to the corresponding biological gender, and students with gender identity issues shall be provided an alternative appropriate private facility. The motion was seconded by Mr. Records at the time, and then there was a discussion by the board which ultimately tabled it till this evening. So at this point in time, it's back on the table and up for discussion. Does any board member have anything to say?
Mr. Chair, I have one...
What's that? I'm sorry, wait.
I think you need a motion to put it back on.
All right, I would need a motion to put it back on the table based on our parliamentarian.
I'd like to make the motion that we put this back on the table from
All
our
right,
last
we have a
meeting.
motion. Is there a second? Is any other discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it's back on the table, and I think Mr. Anderson was the first one to speak.
Just before we get too far into conversation, this is just a polite request from one board member to the others, which is that if anybody does have a conflict of interest, either as defined by Virginia Code 2.2-3100 or the sections that follow, or our own policy BBFA, that they recuse themselves now instead of after further discussion takes place.
Okay. Is there anyone that would like to recluse himself from the discussion based on Mr. Anderson's request? Okay. Seeing none. Mrs. Hook.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I should go first since I brought this motion. Thank you all for being here tonight and expressing your opinions. A few things I'd like to say at the outset, and I think a lot of people have spoken much more eloquently than I can, but first of all, I want everyone on any side of this issue to be assured that you will be hard-pressed to find, first of all, 7 more well-informed people on this issue than the 7 people that are sitting up here tonight on this board. For probably 2 months now, we have educated ourselves very, very well on every side of this issue. Secondly, you will also be hard-pressed to find 7 more compassionate and understanding people on this board tonight. All 7 of us want what's best for all children, and that's why we serve here. That's why we do this job that I can assure you there aren't any perks to it. So keep those things in mind as we go forward. I don't have a lot to say tonight, but as I sat here, I thought that perhaps one thing I should talk about is what this is not about tonight. Because we've talked a lot about different issues. People have spoken about different issues. But to me, this issue is very, very straightforward, and it's what ultimately led me to bring this motion last month. And there's a variety of things that have come up that I really don't think are at issue here. The first thing is that I don't think what we're talking about tonight implicates anyone's civil rights. Because let me be clear, I don't think we get to vote on each other's civil rights. That's how important they are. And I don't think what we're talking about tonight, which is very specific, and that is keeping our private facilities, restroom, locker rooms, etc., separated on the basis of biological gender and providing an appropriate, compassionate alternative for those, for whatever reason, it doesn't work. I don't think that's a civil rights issue. Now, we can argue all day different cases and what they mean, and probably not reach a conclusion tonight, but I can assure you that I don't believe this implicates anyone's civil rights issue. Similarly, I don't think this is about allowing people to be whoever they want to be. And I want to commend at least all the people I've talked to, and that's been an awful lot of people, that everyone is very much kind of live and let live. Be whoever you want to be, express yourself in any way you want to express yourself. And I think this community is very much of that mind. And I would commend both the community and our students for that as well. I also don't think this is about bullying, intimidation, teasing, etc. We have very, very strong policies in place that prohibit that for any reason. If you wear a green shirt and purple shoes, we don't tolerate it. It's not conducive to the learning environment. And once again, I want to commend our students and the community because I think they've been very good in addressing this issue as well. I do want to say, however, that I think having an open and fair discussion and a reasonable discussion on an issue is not bullying. That's just reasonably discussing an issue. I also don't think this is about disrupting the learning environment. I have never said privately or publicly that I thought the current practice was going to disrupt the learning environment in the traditional sense that we think about it. Again, I think most of our students, they just want to put their heads down and they want to get on with their day. They want to go to physics, they want to go to band practice, whatever's going on. And so I don't think it has. Again, I commend our students for getting through their school's days, and I wouldn't have expected anything different. The last thing that I don't think this is about is all you pesky parents. If I had a dime for every time I've heard in the past couple of months, if all these parents would just get out of the way, we'd all be fine. Well, that is patently offensive. Because every parent in this room, every parent, has a right to speak on behalf of their child. And so I would encourage everyone to continue doing that because we need that input from all of our parents. And so it's not about the students are okay if the parents would just get out of the way, because first of all, that's not true. I think there's students on both sides of this issue, just like there are parents on both sides of this issue. And so I would encourage parents on any side to please continue speaking out. We want to hear from you. I think what we're talking about here tonight is about one thing and one thing only, and it's an issue I have not been able to get past. And I've asked a lot of smart people who disagree with me how to get past this issue, and no one has been able to provide an adequate answer. And that's about respecting everybody's dignity, everyone's privacy, and everyone's dignity. I think we had a young woman stand up and say maybe adults weren't familiar with the private facilities at our school. Well, I can tell you it's been a long time since I've been in the private facilities at our public schools. So I took a tour last week. I do want to thank Mr. Avery at the high school. He was my chaperone so that I wouldn't intrude upon anyone's privacy while I did that. And I can tell you there's very little privacy in those facilities, particularly the men's room. None in our locker rooms. And that's a serious issue that we need to consider because, again, everybody sitting in this room, everybody watching tonight has parts of our bodies that we consider private. Whether you're transgendered, non-transgender, everyone has those things. And we need to respect and protect that privacy for everyone as much as we can. A transgendered person does not want to use the restroom of their biological sex because they feel uncomfortable being around and doing private things around individuals that they consider of an opposite gender. Okay, I understand that. But that's precisely what's being asked of every other person in the building. And that's what I can't get past. And I want to emphasize that it's what is being asked of every other child in the building. And it's important to remember that we're talking about K through 12 children in this case. Now, we certainly have some students, as they turn 18, they kind of click over to the age of majority. But these are young people that we as a society have decided are too young to drink. By and large, they are too young to vote, too young to smoke, too young to get a tattoo, too young to serve in the armed forces, and many of them are too young to even drive a car. But yeah, we want to thrust them into some very adult situations right now, and I also think that is pretty unfair to do that. I don't pretend I have all the answers here tonight, but what I'm trying to do is find a compromise and find something that everyone can live with, that respects everyone's dignity, that respects through whatever anyone is going through right now, and that's why I ultimately brought this motion. It's a compromise. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I think it's what we need to do to make sure that everyone's dignity is respected, and that's why I'd urge my colleagues to vote yes tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hook. Is there another board member that would like to speak? Mr. Records.
I too would like to thank you all very much for coming out here tonight, for coming out to our last school board meeting. This has been, over the last 6 weeks, a topic that I certainly have spoken to many citizens within our community about. And have spent countless hours researching many different legal opinions, many different opinions in general that folks have, and the laws that surround really the matter. It's a subject that I haven't, and I don't think any member of this board has taken lightly. I certainly have compassion for all the issues that surround the matter concerning transgender, the issues that these folks face. We really have, I think for me, with the help of the community, really, it became rather straightforward for me. And we have, as we've mentioned, many people have mentioned, Title IX. Title IX is an educational amendment made in 1972. As it was mentioned, it was an item that generally came to be due to the women's rights movement. And this particular sentence is what's really important here. And that sentence is that no person in the United States shall be on the basis of sex be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. So really, when you take all of the emotion and the sensationalism that kind of has surrounded some of this, for me, really the question is, what is the definition of sex? And my definition, and a couple of other speakers have mentioned it too, my definition coincides with the Oxford English Dictionary. And that's either of two main categories, being male or female, into which humans and many other living things are divided on the basis of their reproductive functions. And, you know, as an aside, most challenges and arguments to Title IX have surrounded athletics. We've heard several people talk about the VHSL, and that they have determined athletic eligibility for transgendered students to be allowed under certain conditions. And they're very certain specific conditions. And those conditions are that if there has been a sexual reassignment surgery by the student, and they are taking hormones with the gender that they identify with, that they can play sports with that particular gender. In the event that they have had a sexual reassignment surgery and stop taking a hormone, they can no longer participate in that sport in the gender that they identify with. There hasn't been a lot of challenging to that particular stance that the VHSL has taken. The ACLU has been relatively clear up until a few days ago with respect to their position. And I think I've come to the conclusion that, you know, I think I contend that if there's really protection under Title IX for transgender discrimination, then why have a handful of states created their own laws concerning the subject? The Commonwealth of Virginia has no such law. No case has been brought before the Commonwealth of Virginia concerning discrimination under transgender, and no cases have been brought before the federal government, as many speakers have already mentioned. This really is very much new territory. I believe that this decision potentially would be setting precedent for the Commonwealth and quite possibly the nation. And I do believe that we do need to make reasonable accommodations. I think nobody would disagree with the fact that we do not want to not allow someone to use the restroom. What I fear is that when we talk about the restroom, and if we're going to talk about the restroom, then we need to talk about the locker room. We need to talk about showers. We need to talk about overnight field trips. We need to talk about who searches transgender people, because our code of conduct is very clear. A male searches a male. A female searches a female. So if we're going to do something other than I think what we currently have on the table, we have to open that up, which is not going to be easy. Ultimately, in conclusion, I think that the proposal that is on the table is reasonable, and it's one that I support. We can't be fearful of the ACLU, the OCR, or the DOJ. This school board has a duty to provide for the needs, the safety, and the privacy of all of our students, and all 5,423 of them. So with that,
thank you, Mr. Records. Is there any other board member have any comments at this time? Ms. Parker?
I do appreciate each and every one of you that showed up tonight to voice your concerns and your viewpoints. We do care. I did take a little bit of heat from a few of you last month when I postponed the vote, but I can assure you it was for the reasons that we have all delved into this issue and that we have looked at it very carefully, and we all have kind of learned a whole lot that we had no idea about. So in that respect, we've learned a whole lot of things that are very important to all of you, obviously very important to all of us. We did take into consideration also, I feel like, that we listened to you with the ideas that you put out there about unisex bathrooms, facilities for all of our kids, because there's a lot of you out there, including family members that I have previously had that have gone to school, that did not want to use the restrooms, period. They waited and knocked me down coming in the door when they came home in the afternoon. So I know that's an issue with a lot of you students. So I think that we are making a very good move in the possibility of opening up other bathroom facilities for all of our students that feel uncomfortable in some way or fashion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. Thank you, Ms. Parker. Any other board members?
Yes, Mr. Chair. And I'd like to commend our superintendent and our administration for doing that over the Thanksgiving holiday and making sure that we had those unisex bathrooms in place. I strongly have been on this board. I've been on this board for 11 years, and I strongly have been an advocate for all children in this county, for all children. I've always wanted it to be a safe environment for all children. And this is a very, very tough issue for me. But also when I stop and I think about this whole picture of everything that we're going through, I mean, it's difficult for the whole county. But I also know that we as a county can come together and agree on some things. I think the unisex bathrooms, and as I've told our superintendent and our board members, I think it's a wonderful idea for the unisex bathrooms. I think it's a good thing they've already been put in place, and I believe they've been put in place at a very low cost. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm. Well, just speaking a little bit about that for the community's, I would say, knowledge base. When the issue came up in November, and as everyone has said this evening, there are varying sides to this issue. And there are some who are in support, and there are some who are in opposition. And with an issue that is as sensitive as this, then I would expect that to be nothing less. What I talk to the board about is whenever you have an issue, and not specific to transgender, it opened up a possible avenue to look at other things. And one of the things that we did notice at the high school, and I think it was stated earlier, there are some male restrooms, and there's one bathroom, and I believe it's on the A hall, that has, and I don't know if we have the picture. Do we have the picture?
Yes, sir.
Can we put the picture up, just to kind of give you an idea of what this may look like? Yeah. All right. Now, what I ask you to think about is that's one of the things that we looked at in terms of trying to make situations more appropriate for everyone. That's one example. But as you can see, and that's not a locker room, there are no partitions between any of those urinals. And I would think as, anyone in terms of trying to have privacy, this is not related to this young man. Took a look at what can we do across the board. I think every child would want to have some privacy if you have to go to a urinal. I don't know too many young men that would want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 8 deep, and use a urinal beside someone that doesn't have a partition. So I think that there were avenues that can benefit everyone. The issue about the unisex restrooms, we thought that that was another opportunity to make it better for everyone, not in dealing with this specific issue, but there are individuals who would feel more comfortable, male and female, having an opportunity to use restrooms where they have more privacy. So I say that in all of this, whatever side of the fence that you're on, and whatever the board ends up deciding, if there's one thing that, will be a benefit to all kids, is that there are opportunities now that we can take a look at to increase privacy for every student, and that's what I've heard everyone say. It's about all kids, where the unisex restrooms come at a very nominal cost. The petitions that we are thinking about looking at, and even the petition strips for female restrooms. They come at a very, very inexpensive cost, and I think if you're thinking about that for all students, that's a small price to pay when it comes down to making privacy better for everyone. So again, I just want to thank you all for coming in and voicing your concerns. Whatever side of the fence you're on, we know it's a very difficult issue. We have deliberated a long time, and there are some people who agree and there are some people who disagree, and that's fine. I think ultimately the board, will make a decision that they feel will be in the direction that they want Gloucester County Public Schools to go in, and then we'll move forward. So thank you again.
Thank you, Dr. Clemens. So I guess the bottom line is, if we're going to provide an alternative, appropriate private facility, then I can support this policy.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Anyone else would like to speak?
I would, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Hensley?
Thank you. We don't need this policy in Gloucester County Public Schools because we can protect all students' privacy rights without violating Title IX, without an investigation by the Office of Civil Rights, which controls our federal funding. That's not litigation, that's a different issue. And without spending money that we don't have on litigation. First of all, adopting this policy would violate the law. Whether or not you agree with it, Title IX is interpreted and enforced by the Federal Department of Education, and its arm of enforcement is the Office of Civil Rights. And so to say that this is not a civil rights issue, I do not think is correct. I think that Pastor Carter had it correct. This is a civil rights issue of this time, and that's why the Office of Civil Rights is involved in these cases. The Department of Justice and the Office of Civil Rights has clearly interpreted Title IX to protect transgender students, and it does that in a variety of ways. Virginia law is not what's dispositive in Title IX. Title IX is a federal type of law, and so while we don't have Virginia case law, we wouldn't expect it in the federal realm. So first of all, there have been lawsuits. The United States Department of Justice filed suit against the Arcadia United School District back in 2013 on this issue because the school district prohibited a transgender student from using male bathrooms and other school facilities. At the same time that the Department of Justice filed suit, the Office of Civil Rights began an investigation of that school district. There was no judgment in that case by a jury or by a judge because a settlement was reached, which is common in many, many lawsuits. And so a resolution agreement was entered into by the parties. The school district had to admit that it violated Title IX. They were sanctioned. They had to perform all kinds of training and remediation in their school district, and they did incur huge costs in doing so. After that case, after the Arcadia case, the Department of Education said, well, this isn't just this school district. This is something that's going on all over the country right now. And so they issued guidelines in April of this year, extending sex discrimination under Title IX to claims based on gender identity. The Department of Education said the Office of Civil Rights stands ready to enforce this core principle to ensure all students' safety in schools. So it's not my personal belief of what Title IX tells me sex is. I don't get to interpret laws on that personal level. The Office of Civil Rights, the Department of Justice, interprets this and enforces the law as they see fit. And that's what we're subject to here in Gloucester. Only 2 months ago, on October 8th of this year, the Department of Justice and the Office of Civil Rights had another settlement of a case with another school district, the Downey School District. And the same thing happened. That school district prohibited transgender students from using gender-identified facilities. And that school district had to admit fault. They had to bring in a school compliance officer. They had to spend thousands of dollars to hire outsiders to come in to make sure that they were now going to comply with Title IX. And there is a trend across the country of recognizing the rights of transgender people. Although Virginia law doesn't apply, in Virginia the trend is continuing. Our governor, Governor McAuliffe, signed the first executive order of his tenure as governor on January 4th of this year, and that order was protecting transgender rights and protecting transgender people from discrimination in employment here in the Commonwealth. So it's an issue that is all over, not just in Virginia, but all over the country. We have had someone mention it. The Virginia school superintendent issued a memo on June 6th of this year providing guidance to all school systems concerning the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights regarding sexual violence in public schools' obligations under Title IX to recognize transgender rights. The VHSL has addressed this, and as we learned at a conference we all went to a few weeks ago for the Virginia School Board Association, they're poised to change their regulations. And so we expect new regulations coming down from VHSL imminently. Also, again, just showing the trend across the country, just last week, a transgender girl in Maine was awarded $75,000 in her suit against a school district from banning her from her gender-identified bathrooms. On December 1st, last week, the Department of Education again issued more guidelines instructing all public schools to treat transgender students consistent with their gender identity. So in light of the fact that there is a federal law that governs our actions, what do we do about it? Do we adopt the policy that's before the board that requires us to check someone's biological genitalia to determine what bathroom they need to go into during the school day? Because I do think, as other students have said and as we've seen, that when you go into the high school, you don't know who is transgender. You can't pick them out. And so you don't know if the person in the stall next to you is transgender or not. It's just not something that you can tell by looking at someone. So I would say no, the answer is not this motion, but the answer is what many people have said already tonight, privacy. That we need to provide much more privacy for everyone, for girls, for all students, girls, boys, gay, straight, transgender, whatever. We do it by retrofitting those bathrooms and ensuring that there are stalls with walls and doors for all of our children to use. Because no one should be looking at anyone else's private parts when they go into the bathroom, regardless of who they are. And so they need to have that type of privacy in every facility we have. We also, I agree, and we've heard it tonight, I think that we should add the unisex bathrooms to give all students the same access to facilities and to give more privacy. This is easy to do. There are all kinds of reasons students may choose to use a unisex. Locker rooms can have curtain dividers and stalls added. And also in locker rooms, there's an added thing that there's always an adult in locker rooms that can help ensure privacy and students' rights in that area. And I just want to remind everyone that no one showers in the locker rooms at Gloucester High School. The water was cut off years ago, so that is not an issue for us. And I want to pose it, well, this is an emotional issue for many people. It's multifaceted, but a lot of it does come down to dollars and cents. How much is it worth to ban a transgender student from their gender-identified bathroom at a time that we can't pay our teachers what they deserve and we can't afford textbooks for some of our classes? An administrative investigation by the Office of Civil Rights would cost us thousands and thousands of dollars, and that's money that we don't have. And more importantly, it puts our federal funding at risk. Gloucester County Public Schools receives almost $3 million from the federal government, and that's our tax money too. We pay federal taxes, and through federal programs that we get money in Gloucester County from, that's one of the ways we get it back. Federal money, federal programs in Gloucester County Public Schools buys breakfasts and lunches for hungry students. It pays for English specialists, reading specialists, and math specialists for struggling students. It provides special education for our students, and we need this federal money to provide these services. It is unclear that a loss of all federal programs, but it would also put at risk our ROTC program in the high school, because that is a combination with a federal military institution. And I don't want to risk losing the great ROTC program we have when we can defeat this motion and provide the privacy that everyone needs. I don't think that that's worth it. I don't think these federal programs should be removed from our school system. I think that we need them for all of our students. We can provide privacy to all of our students. We can do it in a cost-effective way. We can do it immediately. And we can do it, and we must do it, while following the law. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hensley. Mr. Anderson, you're left.
I'm a man of few words, especially when what I have to say doesn't really expand on anything. So I'll say for the record that I support Ms. Hook's resolution as written for many of the same reasons that the board and the public has brought forward over the last two public information sessions. And I would also thank Ms. Hook for bringing that legal expertise that one of the speakers previously mentioned in their comments to draft something for the board to consider to deal with a topic that is hard to deal with. So thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Is there any other board members that would have any comments? Before I call for the motion, I'd just like to make a comment. I've been on this board on and off since 2000. And we've had difficult decisions, challenging decisions, easy decisions. This one ranks right up there with one of the more challenging decisions I have experienced over the last 14 and a half years. It's difficult. It's something that we've all, as Mrs. Hook indicated, we all dug into, and we wanted to get the facts right. When I first got on the board, there was a woman that was on the board that was getting off at that time that gave me some advice as I was getting on the board and said, if you could wake up in the morning after a board meeting and look yourself in the mirror and say you did what was right for students, then you did your job. So I've been using that advice ever since I got on this board. I think one of the things we strive for is to get parent and community involvement. We have it tonight. We need it every month, regardless of what the topics are, because that's what makes our school system stronger and makes it the envy of most of the other areas around. We have a terrific staff. We have a great community. And to pull all that information and pull all those people and resources together, we can't fail. Involved parents does it all. This is a K-12 environment we're talking about, which even makes it even more challenging. I struggled with which way to go. I considered everything that all the other board members considered. And I will support Mrs. Hook's motion this evening after a long deliberation of what I need to do as an individual and as a board member. With that said, does anybody else have any comments before I call for the roll call vote? Okay, hearing none. Ms. Kamash, will you pull the board?
Ms. Hensley.
No.
Mrs. Hook.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Yes.
Approved 6-1.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to allow Ms. Farina to provide her Student Advisory Committee items next, and then I'm going to call for a break of 5 minutes that'll allow everyone to leave, and allow, as well as Ms. Farina, if they would like to. We'd love you to stay the rest of the evening with us. Ms. Farina?
I've said everything I've needed to say, so thank you. I'm fine.
Thank you, Ms. Farina, for your comment. Thank you very much, and thank you for your earlier comments as well. With that said, I'm going to take a 5-minute break, and we will reconvene at 9:23. Thank you, everyone. We got a quorum up here, so I'm going to continue to where we were at. Next item on the agenda is superintendent items, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Clemens.
A comprehensive plan, just as a follow-up. We have our next scheduled meeting that will be coming up next week, December the 17th. At our last meeting, again, we had a good turnout again, probably about 60 people. And at the last meeting, we did have 3 members of the Board of Supervisors that were there, and the sheriff was there also. So I think that that's a good mix.
Sir, Reverend Carter, Pastor Carter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Dr. Clemens.
The other piece, I think, as we start to finalize, one of the things that I will make clear to everyone at our next meeting is that ultimately the board has the final decision in terms of comprehensive planning and taking a look at what are those things. It's almost like a budget. It's that we bring items and we make recommendations, but then the board has the ability to streamline or go in a direction that they feel is good for the district. So as we now start to come into a situation where we are trying to really narrow down some of the critical elements, that would be something that I would want to have ready for the board maybe in January to take a look at, maybe even at a work session, to take a look at, okay, here's what the process has done, here's some of the conversation, and let's really kind of, finalize so we can have a plan that's going to take us, over the next 6 years. So if you can come out again on next week, please do so. I've been real encouraged with the number of people, that have come to the last 2 meetings. The other thing that I had real briefly was that maybe the thought about a possible additional budget meeting with the Board of Supervisors. I know we had talked about that, and we've thrown in, a time when we meet again after the public input hearing. But it may be wise for us also to see if we can coordinate a time to talk with them even before we get to the final processes so that they can kind of have an idea of where we are. Maybe we can get some insight as to, what they're looking at as well. So I wanted to know if it was the board's pleasure to give me the ability to have dialogue with Ms. Garten in terms of maybe seeing what some amenable dates that we may have to have an additional meeting with the Board of Supervisors. I mean, they, distributed their budget calendar, and I think that we're scheduled for a joint meeting with them in March. I believe it's the 26th. It is. Mm-hmm. But might not be a bad idea for us to think about trying to work with them in a joint setting before then. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, so maybe we could try to look at something and meet with them beforehand.
That would be terrific. Maybe if you and Ms. Garten could maybe work out some dates. I know that Ms. Garten has in the past provided us with a meeting selection of days that we could all meet. Trying to get 16 of us together is going to be extremely difficult. But
you already have a meeting scheduled on Thursday, February 26th. Ms. Wright is recommending that you change that from 7 to 5:30 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering about the possibility of a 7 o'clock meeting with the Board of Supervisors.
If they're available, I'm sure.
Well, what I'd also like to do before we come into any resolution, I think having an additional meeting is good, but I also want to make sure that I have dialogue with Ms. Wright, because in looking at the numbers and the figures, and I don't want to go in and not be as prepared as what we need to be. So I think that we need to have some idea in terms of what we want to look at and move forward. So let me coordinate with her and see what a good time may be, because we know when the governor releases his budget and you've got some other things that have to, come out of that. We're in the process right now meeting with different schools and departments relating to their budget requests as well. So let's see what we can come up with to try to come up with an amenable time frame to have another meeting, with the Board of Supervisors.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I don't remember when this was last year. Maybe other members remember, but we met with Senator Norman and Delegate Hodges. I think it was before the General Assembly session started last year.
I think it was in December, too.
It was in December, because I thought that was very helpful. And I don't know how the other board members feel about trying. I don't know how successful we'd be at this point, but trying to schedule something with the two of them again. And I would suggest as well, perhaps inviting our federal representatives as well. Now, I don't think they'd come, but maybe we could ask them to send a staff member or something, because some of our issues come from the federal level as well, and so I think it would be useful to at least invite them as well, because I thought that was a very useful meeting for us to have last year.
It's certainly not out of the realm to get Congressman Whitman here, or I think the senators would probably be a little bit less accessible, at least at this time. But certainly Delegate Hodges and Senator Norman should be available for us, at least for an hour. That's what we did last time. Dr. Clements, we had them come over. They spent about an hour and a half with us, and we provided them some of our biggest concerns relative to school funding and school issues at the state level.
Okay. Well, we'll start to put that in motion to see what we can come up with, and then I'll get back with you all as soon as possible to see what the available dates may be, so you can try to coordinate your schedules as well. So,
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Are you done? All right. The next item is human resource items, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Smith.
Good evening. Members of the board, Dr. Clemens, Ms. Gamache. I bring you greetings from the Office of Human Resources, and yes, we are still happy. We are excited about the things that we are doing in human resources to continue our Going Green initiatives. Right now, we're in the process of preparing for an imaging project with all of our personnel files to streamline our personnel files. The other initiative that we pushed out, of course, our employment intent survey is online and it has been distributed. As a matter of fact, it was due back to us on Monday, and we're in the process of massaging everything, and I will be putting a report together for Dr. Clemens, Dr. Wagner, and other members of the executive team. We're very excited, and I have to thank you again for the funds that you provide for our teachers who are interested in moving to the next level. I'm happy to announce tonight that we have a new National Board Certified teacher. Her name is Ashley Fields. She's a grade 4 teacher at Bethel Elementary School. So if you know Ms. Field, please congratulate her, send her an email message. I'm sure she would appreciate it. That is some hard work making it to that plateau. Other initiatives, we hosted Region 3, the Office of Human Resources. We housed the HR departments from Region 3 here in our facility. Very happy to do that. As a member of Region 3, the committee that put it all together was my staff, and they did a wonderful job even in my absence to carry it all out. And I have to thank my counterpart, Ms. Wright, who stepped in, and thank you, Dr. Clemens, for coming in and welcoming everyone. And my final information update for you is on December the 11th, we will be holding our degree guest teacher training. On January 29th and 30th, we will have a 2-day non-degree training. And on January the 27th, all guest teachers, paraprofessionals, it's a mandatory meeting for you all to come. So if you are listening out there, please make sure you have that on your calendar, and we'll be communicating with you all through your building level principal. Are there any questions? Thank you very much.
Sorry, more of a comment. Hasn't our past practice been to have those National Board Certified teachers come before the board for a little recognition? Do you think we could get Ms. Field, if she wants to come to our January meeting
I'm
and
sure she'd be happy
tell
to
us about
come.
her experience as far as what it took to get that far?
Sure.
That'd be
That can
terrific.
happen. I think that's awesome.
Yeah,
Okay?
that'd be great.
I'll make that happen.
Good
Anything
recommendation.
else?
No, thank you, Dr. Smith.
Thank you.
Good recommendation, Mr. Anderson. Thank you. All right, the next item is administrative items. Mr. Hutchinson.
Good evening. Real quickly, there's three things here. My department report's pretty straightforward. They have been busy in all areas, and it certainly outlines several things there. The update on redistricting, we are still gathering some information. Part of that's in conjunction with our look at our budget as to our numbers and things like that. Of course, we are looking at redistricting of the middle school, and our initial indications are that we will, based on numbers, stay with the zoning that existed before. I think Mr. Records asked a question about high school and BHSL. BHSL is determined by grades 9 through 12, so even a redistribution of numbers within the high school itself would not be impacted because of BHS. We would still remain in the district which we are scheduled competitively.
Did VHSL actually tell us that?
I talked to several administrators in other divisions, and they got the same response. I did not make a call directly to them.
Thank you for checking in on that.
Yeah. But I think
not
other
that
schools have been interested in doing the same thing.
And not that that was the reason why we would do it, by any means, or the bigger thought process that I had talked about. But that's definitely good to know that information.
But again, as we move forward, we'll look at elementary numbers and that type of thing, and budgeting. Of course, we're looking at staffing, so those are things we'll keep in mind. But I will be sending shortly some information based on current data and information that we have right now. The last thing is a policy that you pulled from the consent agenda, which you've asked us to do is in new policies, and this is school meals and snacks. And this is also in support of the policy that you chose to support from the School Health Advisory Board last year, and that has a major focus of nutrition and quality foods and food options, plus creating an environment of encouragement of supporting a nutritional approach. Just quick couple things. We've been real fortunate to have a partnership with Riverside through our School Health Advisory Board members there, as well as parents on that same board that often look at this. Our nutrition plans, Steve Patton and our food service department has always been ahead of the curve. They do not serve any processed foods. I mean, for years, you hear about this mush that serves some other place. Steve, from the very beginning, has chosen to not have parts as parts, but we actually, chicken, our staff actually cuts up. It's not processed through a blender and swirled up and painted pink or whatever. So, he's always chosen to choose quality foods. So I really commend him on that, and that's something we can continue to do. In the past, he's had food tastings with other divisions, and he's investigating that for the future. I mean, literally, we'll set up a shop, and usually in a high school. We might change the venue to Walker now, but where vendors will come in, working with Cisco, our major rep, and provide opportunities for kids to taste different types of food. And that's actually how several foods have ended up on our menu over the years through that process. And usually he tries to create a partnership, make it profitable for the vendors, and that will invite Matthews and Middlesex and York and some other folks to attend. And that would include parents, kids, and other divisions, as I said. So I'll ask you if you have some, and I would glad to answer any questions you may have, but I would ask you to pass this first and second reading, please.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hutchinson. You heard the recommendation on the policy JHCD. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Is it for first and second reading?
Yes, first and second.
All right. Both of them said yes. All right. Any discussion? Mrs. Hook.
I have a couple of questions. Is this by any chance in response to the I've forgotten the official federal name of it, the School Nutrition Act that passed a couple of years ago? Is that part of this, a new policy?
A portion of it, yes, absolutely. Because when you look at the, paragraph 2, I believe it is, speaks about fruits and providing healthy foods, including a variety of fruits and vegetables. That's certainly in that policy. We obviously run a very efficient food service. I mean, we have money in the bank in that account. It is an independent account. And, the FDA has required us to raise our prices, not because we need to, but because that's part of the FDA requirement, unfortunately, for our citizens. But at the same time, Steve and his staff, working especially with Amy and Lydia. Amy is really interested in food nutrition, so she's looked at a lot of things that have just been not only good for you, but good tasting. And she worked with Steve in creating the online listing of what ingredients are included in the nutrition facts and all that. So,
okay. And just two more quick items. The policy states that we'll involve students in the selection, tasting, and marketing of healthy food and beverages. What does involving students in the marketing look like?
I guess they'll be in the purchasing of the marketing and influencing the cafeteria to purchase those foods. Not that they would necessarily be selling those foods.
Okay. Secondly, in the next couple of work sessions, I would really like to have Mr. Patton give us a quick 10-minute synopsis of, again, I can't remember the official federal name of the new federal school lunch act, whatever it's called, because that's been impacting local school divisions, some more, some less.
Absolutely, including
I would like to educate myself a little more on that issue. So if we could put that on your list of things. Thank you, Dr.
Good deal.
Clemens.
Even some samples would be nice, especially on long evenings like this.
I'll see what I can do for you. But no, seriously, going back to your question, Ms. Hook, we have very inquisitive parents, which is a good thing. And so Steve's actually has issued some letters of explanation of what we're doing to some parents. And his last letter he issued specifically to a parent regarding our nutrition policies. I asked him to include it in our next month's report. So it's timely that you asked that question. So he'll certainly do that, and we'll certainly respond to that. Absolutely.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. One last thing about a food service I should have said. They were first place winners in the parade last Sunday. So, last Saturday, excuse me.
All right. The next one is instructional items.
Can I have just two quick questions for Mr. Hutchinson. One is, I had read in our status update that we expected completion of the bandwidth upgrade by Verizon to the 600 megabytes to be completed December 1st. Has that been completed?
I'm trying to be polite. Verizon has come and gone many times, and I noticed their truck was here yesterday and today, as a matter of fact. It's in process. Let me just say that politely.
Okay. Thank you. And then the other item was, and I was out of town for a week and a half or so, and I may have missed this totally, but the Board of Supervisors talked about the transportation facility, the existing transportation facility up at the old Page Middle School site. Yes. And then there was some correspondence about work in a proposal, and I was curious. I know we, the school board, received that data. Did that data go to the Board of Supervisors from the previous studies that have been done about the transportation center, or not?
Yes, sir. Dr. Clemens asked me to forward that to them.
So it has been sent to them?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, I think Dr. Clemens had something. Did you have something, sir?
If I'm not mistaken, and I could be because I'm kind of in and out right now, I thought I had sent the board an email before we went home from the holiday break about if you wanted that information to be submitted to the Board of Supervisors.
Okay.
I just have to go back and double check. I know we're sending out so much stuff.
And I may have missed it because I was gone, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And I may be mistaken also, but we'll do it.
Okay. We'll do a check on that.
Yeah, and speaking of that, the other thing that we had discussed from the joint meeting, and if it's the pleasure of the board, I know that there was some dialogue with the Board of Supervisors that related to if there would be any cost savings as it related to transportation routes changing. And we've got some information, but what I'd like to do is send that to you all first, and then you look at it, and then if you want me to forward it on or Hutch to forward it on to the board, we can do that as well.
Sounds good.
One quick question on that. So that'll be preliminary information, right? Because we don't have the redistricting complete yet. So I would...
That information is strictly based on what it was beforehand.
Or what it was.
And literally it's the delta in the mileage from Wawa to Peasley minus the distance from Wawa to the new school.
All right. I got you.
But I just say Harper.
Okay. Thank you. All right, moving on to the next item is instructional items. Dr. Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Clemens. You have received the instructional reports and the school reports in your board packet, and given the late hour, I certainly won't take any time there, especially considering that I have two other items that appear on the instructional agenda that you may want to ask a question or two about, but nonetheless, still, even as we approach the holidays, lots of school events that are noteworthy that were included in the instructional report. And a few things that aren't listed that I'll mention very briefly. A group of middle school teachers the last week in November went to visit the new page and to walk through some of that space. Mr. Hutchinson and Mr. Shoreland facilitated that visit for the group of teachers. Provided hard hats for all of us to wear and walk around the facility for about 90 minutes or so. A great way to get teachers inspired about that new instructional space, especially for page teachers who have been confined to an instructional space about as large as this table for the last 3.5 years or so. And we're going to begin the conversations with Mr. Brogan and the ITRTs about what the instructional technology might look like in the new school. And so we're going to get those conversations rolling here very quickly. But related to that, on Monday and Tuesday of this week, today is Tuesday, so yesterday and today of this week, I had the pleasure of attending the Virginia Society for Technology and Education Conference in Virginia Beach with our ITRTs that attended that conference as well. And it's a very inspiring event to go see the kinds of instructional technology and tech tools that students are using all across the Commonwealth from kindergarten through 12th grade. Very inspiring, and it confirms our need to continue technology investments, instructional technology investments, not just those that improve our productivity as professionals, but those that improve student learning for the kids in all of our schools. And in many cases, our ITRTs are wonderful people. Mr. Brogan has already made the case for additional technology support. And it was interesting to hear from the hundreds of thousands of other people that were there how they also struggle to maintain that support for their schools. In some cases, we'll need to maintain that investment to keep up. But in other cases, we'll need to maintain an investment to catch up, because there are school divisions out there that are putting technology into the hands of students at a pretty incredible rate, and it's just important for us to keep that kind of learning on the forefront, especially as we approach 2015. We are we're 15% of the way through the 21st century, so it's just something to keep in mind. But I'd be happy to and Mr. Brogan, thank you for allowing that trip for the tech folks. Very inspiring. But happy to answer a question if you have one.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There was one thing on your report I wanted to ask a little more about. I'm really fascinated by the computer adaptive test that our sixth graders are going to be taking in the spring. And I guess I would like to learn a little more about that, because apparently it's you go here if you answer correctly, you go here if you don't answer correctly, and how that's going to be, I guess how they're going to normalize those scores, make it fair, so that I guess students that go the more challenging route aren't penalized somehow in their scores than the children who don't have to go that route. I have no idea how this is going to work, and so I'd love to learn. And how is our curriculum, do we have to adapt our curriculum any to help students prepare for a test like that? I don't even know the answer to that. I don't know much about this, but I'm fascinated by this test our sixth graders are going to be taking. And do our parents know yet that the sixth graders are going to be taking this new kind of test yet come spring?
Something that we'll need to communicate to parents as we learn more about it.
Right.
And as you saw in the report, a group of teachers just had a meeting about that. Not only is there going to be a new computer adaptive test, but as I shared at the last meeting, and I know that Ms. Carmine just completed a webinar, it may have been last Friday, on the new SOL score reports that are going to be available for schools and for parents. And so maybe that's 2 bits of information that I can share with you at the January meeting. The computer adaptive testing, as I think as I shared back in October, we're well beyond the pilot stage. This is the first of many computer adaptive tests to come in the future. Has lots of great potential, but you're asking some technical questions that are worth understanding. The Department of Education assures us that their equating process will yield scaled scores that we'll be able to interpret and make sense of that are fair. And it may have something to do with the pathways of responses that students take. Knowing, as I understand it, knowing that not every student will follow the same path of questions. I think that's one of the benefits of that test. But to make certain that the categories of questions that students answer and the level of difficulty are combined in such a way so that at the end of the test, the scores are equitable. So, yeah, I appreciate your fascination. We are too, by the way, fascinated with that.
Is that it, Dr. Whiter? One last thing before we move on to budget and finance items. I just have a real quick one. You have 2 more. All right. I could wait and ask my question later. It has something to do with that, but it doesn't. But I'll wait.
Okay, the 2 other items, just a very brief update on the international field trip policy. You may recall about a month or so ago that Ms. Gamache had shared with us the National School Board Association's recommended policy guidelines for international student travel. I'll be quite honest with you, I was unfamiliar with those until I had received them. And even the conversations that I had had with staff from the VSBA never mentioned the National School Board Association guidelines. Those guidelines seem to suggest that school boards should consider, in addition to their local field trip policies or their more general field trip policies, they should consider an international field trip policy in some respect that either permits under whatever conditions international travel, and obviously the board would be able to select those conditions, or it doesn't. But nonetheless, the policy would be clear one way or another. So we'll hold that in one hand. In the other hand, just yesterday, we received some information from VML on the potential for supplemental insurance to cover international student travel as well. Haven't fully digested that. Both Ms. Wright and I got a copy of that email. It's pretty comprehensive stuff, and it explains the different levels of coverage that might be available for a hypothetical trip, let's say to England. I think that's what I'd put in there, and I also put a trip to Costa Rica for some fictitious number of students. I had to give them enough information to generate a policy proposal, but it certainly doesn't have all the specifics. But nonetheless, there is supplemental insurance that might be available to the board on an annual basis that, at least from what I can read, is relatively affordable. It obviously would provide additional coverage above and beyond what we currently provide now for liability. It would not supplement what we would provide for individual families, obviously, and that may be something that we would consider in the future. But we'd also need to consider the extent to which we would cover staff members or chaperones that were our employees that would travel. I'm not suggesting that we discuss that now, but if you'd like, I think I'm in a position, and I believe I probably speak for Dr. Clemens as well, that we may be in a position now to consider presenting to you an option or two or three for your consideration regarding international student travel. You know, in other words, option A might be no, not at all. Option B might be yes, one trip a year, you know, so to speak. Or option C might be let anybody go wherever they want and we'll, you know, provide everybody insurance. I'm not suggesting that you are that liberal, but nonetheless, there is some supplemental coverage that might be available. But you would also need to know, and I'll say this again, that there's no way to escape liability with international travel. It's just the extent to which this board would be willing to assume some liability, knowing that it would support student international travel with a policy. So if this board would like us to bring to you at some point in the near future, perhaps January or February, a proposal at a work session, a menu of things to consider at a work session for us to discuss further, be happy to do that.
I think that would be appropriate.
That'd be good.
Sounds good. Thank you, Dr. Wagner.
And finally, the update on Naviance. With the help of our colleagues at the county, we had a request for proposal out there. We recognized pretty quickly that no comparable services could be located to offer any reasonable comparison, and so it was recommended that we pursue sole source, and so that's the route that we're going to go. And so I just wanted you to know that for the next, at least for the balance of this year and for the 15-16 school year, we're going to pursue Naviance through sole source and hopefully be able to give you some more information as that implementation unfolds.
Great.
Okay?
Thank you, Dr. Wagner. All right. The next is Budget and Finance with Ms. Wright. As she comes to the podium, Dr. Clemens, one of the things maybe at a future board meeting that we get some additional information on PR consultant. I know that we started using that just recently, and I don't know if we want to or not, and it'll be up to the board to decide, but we have some significant things in our future, like the redistricting, the Paige Peasley opening, the budget itself, that we may be able to use some of those services there if the board thinks it's appropriate or not. But I think maybe just some sort of information going forward on that, on how we want to use that, if at all, going forward as a board.
Okay.
All right. All right.
Good evening. In respect for everyone's time, I know that everyone is tired. You have my reports in the agenda. The first is my departmental report. Since it is getting late, I'm not going to sit here and read this to you. I would like to say I'm very proud of my staff and the work that they do day in and day out to make sure that our employees are paid, to make sure that our benefits are up to date, and they're kind of the unsung heroes behind the scene. And I just want to take a moment to say that I'm very proud of them, and you'll see in this document some of the things that we're working on that go above and beyond the norm. And so I'll be happy to answer any questions. I guess the one thing that I should really highlight, though, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that Craig Smith heads up our United Way and our Ed Foundation campaign, and collectively between the two groups, $8,590 was either collected or pledged from our employees.
Fantastic.
Are there any questions from the report? Okay. The next item that I have for you tonight is donation since the last board meeting. The first donation is $214.44 from Mr. and Mrs. Charles Rydell II to Body Tut Elementary for engineering T-shirts. Also, the Department of General Services contributed biology lab equipment to the school division. The York River Garden Club, $350 for agricultural supplies to Gloucester High School. Total donations, monetary donations, $564.44, and then, of course, the lab equipment as well. My recommendation is that you join me in accepting these donations with grateful appreciation.
I make a motion that we accept these donations with grateful appreciation.
Second.
Is there any other discussions? All right. Ms. Kamash, will you pull the board?
Ms. Parker? Yes. Ms. Hensley? Yes. Mrs. Hood? Yes. Mr. Anderson? Yes. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Records? Yes. Mr. Burek?
Yes.
Okay. And the final item for tonight are the three financial reports, the regular budget report, the construction report, and the HVAC report. And the one thing, just out of the norm from last month, for the construction is change order number 4 was processed. And that was $15,367.73. The biggest component of that was some sensor revisions in the plans, as well as an air release for water main. And I hope you don't have any questions, because I don't think that I could answer them. But that money was adjusted from the contingency, and you'll notice that in the adjustment column, the budget remained the same. So we're just shifting money from contingency to the construction contract. Are there any questions regarding the financial reports?
No.
Okay.
I have one really quick question. You actually had two. You answered one about what the change order consisted of. But the other thing was, I think it was just this morning that I noticed that we put out plans to bid for Abington. Is that in fact true?
For the HVAC?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I think did they just go out on bid maybe today or yesterday?
I'm not sure. I have to go back and look, because we have...
I'm sorry, Achilles.
Achilles, yes.
Yeah, we have Achilles and body top.
Yes.
Right, Achilles. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I said that wrong. Didn't it just go out on bid?
We just hosted a meeting of contractors yesterday, I believe it was. Yes.
Great. Thank you. That was it.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. Appreciate it very much. All right, the last thing is public announcements. The next is Gloucester County Public School Comprehensive Plan meeting as described by Dr. Clements is Wednesday, December 17th at 7 p.m. here at Thomas Calhoun Walker Education Center in the cafeteria. Winter break, the division is closed Monday through Friday, December 22nd through January 2nd. Monday and Tuesday, December 22nd and 23rd. One's a full day, and then the second is the half day for 12-month employees. Teacher and students return from winter break on Monday, January the 5th. And our next meeting, an annual organizational school board meeting, will be Tuesday, January the 13th at 7 here at T.C. Walker Education Center. I just wanted to highlight that it is the organizational meeting, and I suggest any board members that would like to take a leadership role on this board to make your interests known to the other board members prior to that night, so that there's some indication on what people's intent is. With that said, do I have a motion for adjournment?
I have one more
Sure.
question. I'm sorry to hold us up from adjournment. But Dr. Clements, in your plan that you put together for us in the very beginning when you came here, I was under the impression whether it was very short or something other than very short, that you would have a synopsis for us.
Yeah.
For the first 90 days.
Yeah.
Can we do that at our next work session?
Yeah,
or?
I'd like to do that in January, because I can kind of give an update. Yeah.
Obviously, we know we've already done a lot of things,
Yeah.
getting things in motion, but just your assessment of things.
Okay.
It would be helpful, I think, to the public.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Records. Thank you, Dr. Clemens. Motion for adjournment? Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It's been a tough night, but a good night.